Chapter 58. The battle outside Cloudwater City shocked the Sky-Sea realm. No one would have thought that the Yinshui Kingdom would be able to defeat the Moon Kingdom, which was several levels stronger than them. But that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was the young palace lord of the Yinshui Kingdom's Shengwu College. He single-handedly turned the tide and killed more than 30 manifestation realm experts. Finally, he battled the Yinyang realm expert Huang Fushi and severely injured him. Even Huang Fushi managed to escape. Manifestation realm, Yinyang realm. The difference between the two was indescribable. They couldn't be compared at all. Logically speaking, experts of these two realms shouldn't be able to fight because the difference was too great. But Lin Yi, who was at the manifestation realm, was able to fight with Huang Fushi, who was at the Yinyang realm. Although he was severely injured, Huang Fushi was also severely injured and managed to escape. Lin Yi was so heaven-defying that the Sky-Sea realm experts and monsters feared him. They were all curious as to how Lin Yi, who was at the manifestation realm, could fly. In the path of Theta Scarabii, only those who had reached the legendary Void Refinement realm could fly. Warriors below the Void Refinement realm couldn't fly and could only rely on their powerful cultivation and movement techniques to jump. In the Moon Kingdom, the king was killed by Lin Yi. 40 manifestation realm experts died at his hands. Of the 3 million troops that entered the Yinshui Kingdom, less than 1 million were left when they retreated. This time, the Moon Kingdom's core was injured. The Heavenly Dragon Kingdom and the Azure Peak Kingdom were eyeing them covetously. All of this, Lin Yi had created a miracle. Of course, many people believe that Lin Yi had relied on a rank 6 talisman to defeat Huang Fushi. Even more people believed that Lin Yi possessed a rank 6 talisman because of his ability. Not everyone could obtain a rank 5 or 6 talisman. A rank 6 talisman was a super treasure. Lin Yi, the main character of countless experts' discussions, had long since left the battlefield of Cloudwater City and returned to Shengwu College to recuperate and cultivate in seclusion. As for the aftermath of the battle, there was naturally no need for him. The 4 great academies and the royal family all took out precious healing pills. Several 5th-grade spirit pills appeared in front of Lin Yi. Shengwu College even took out their last 6th-tier spirit pill. At this moment, Lin Yi's status in the Yinshui Kingdom was extremely high. Not only was his strength the best, but his talent was also the best in the Sky-Sea realm. Given a few more years, it wouldn't be a problem for him to dominate the Sky-Sea realm. The Yinshui Kingdom naturally had to curry favor with Lin Yi, and the other 3 academies naturally didn't want to become enemies with Lin Yi. As for Shengwu College, Lin Yi was the young palace master of Shengwu College. His talent was unparalleled, and he was the future of Shengwu College. 5th-grade spirit pills are indeed precious. Lin Yi looked at the 6 5th-grade spirit pills. Among the 6 spirit pills, one was called the Golden Recovery Pill, and the other was called the Dragon Blood Spirit Pill. The Dragon Blood Spirit Pill came from the royal family, and the Golden Recovery Pill came from the 3 great academies. The 2 types of spirit pills were mainly used for healing, and the supplementary effect was to increase cultivation. A 5th-grade spirit pill couldn't be compared to a 5th-grade spirit weapon. Its value was even more precious than a 5th-grade spirit talisman. After all, it was a panacea that could increase a warrior's cultivation and heal injuries. As for the 6th-grade spirit pill that Shengwu College took out, it was definitely one of a kind in the Yinshui Kingdom. It was said that Shengwu College's palace master obtained it 100 years ago during his travels. There were a total of 3, and 2 were used. Now, there was only 1 left. 6 Revolutions Illusionary Spirit Pill. This kind of spirit pill could instantly restore a warrior's cultivation to its peak state as long as he didn't die. All injuries would be suppressed. Of course, this kind of spirit pill could only treat the symptoms and not the root cause. However, its miraculous effect was definitely a treasure for warriors. In a great battle, having this kind of spirit pill was equivalent to having an extra life. Looking at the 7 spirit pills in front of him, Lin Yi moved his mind and put 6 of them into the 9-fold space, leaving only 1 dragon blood spirit pill. His injuries had to be healed as soon as possible. The yin-yang realm is indeed powerful. I'll fight him when I reach the 7th grade of Wanxiang realm. Lin Yi calmed down and thought of Huang Fushi's strength. The power of yin and yang, the power that could destroy heaven and earth, was both shocking and enviable. The power of the yin-yang realm wasn't something that the Wanxiang realm could compare to. At this moment, his desire for strength had reached an extreme. He reached out and picked up the dragon blood spirit pill and threw it into his mouth. The 5th grade dragon blood spirit pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth. Its miraculous power quickly merged with his blood and true yuan. His injuries were already painful when he circulated his energy. Now that the power of the dragon blood spirit pill had merged with his true yuan and blood, the pain felt like it was going to tear him apart. However, he realized that the magical power of the dragon blood spirit pill was mainly for healing. It continuously circulated his blood and true yuan. This was the power of a 5th grade spirit pill. Luo water scripture. Lin Yi endured the pain and circulated the Luo water scripture. Beads of sweat slid down his cheeks. Time passed by second. The terrifying pain made Lin Yi tremble. The most terrifying thing was that this kind of pain couldn't make him faint or feel numb. Instead, he felt a clear pain. After 2 hours, Lin Yi had completely absorbed the medicinal effects of the dragon blood spirit pill. His injuries finally stabilized. Although his injuries hadn't healed, his cultivation had increased a little. He had reached the peak of the 2nd level of the Wanxiang realm and was only a step away from the 3rd level. If this continued, his cultivation would definitely reach the 3rd level of the Wanxiang realm by the time his injuries healed. After stabilizing his injuries and circulating his energy, he no longer felt pain. As long as it didn't affect his circulation, his injuries would slowly heal on their own. However, it would take a little longer. What Lin Yi lacked the most right now was time. Therefore, he wouldn't slowly heal his injuries. Instead, he chose to use spirit pills to heal his injuries. Only when his injuries were healed could he cultivate and increase his strength without any worries. Only with powerful strength would his life be more secure. Lin Yi spent 3 months in a 9-fold space. In 3 months, he used all 6 5th grade spirit pills and his injuries were completely healed. Although the 6 5th grade spirit pills were mainly used for healing, they had a powerful effect on a martial artist cultivation. His current cultivation had not only reached the 3rd level of the Wanxiang realm, but it had also reached the peak of the 3rd level. After his injuries healed, Lin Yi continued to cultivate and increase his strength. Half of his time was spent cultivating the Luo water scripture and the 3,000 heavenly Tao. The other half was spent on cultivating the 10-fold destruction blade, heavenly phoenix divine seal, divine dragon 9 transformations, heavenly emperor fist, heavenly frost aurora, heavenly annihilating finger, and wings of space. These were his greatest assets. Each of them could cause a bloodbath in the sky-sea realm. 2 years passed unknowingly as he cultivated. 2 years in the 9-fold space was only 3 months in the outside world. To a martial artist, 3 months was practically a snap of the fingers. Everyone knew that Lin Yi was healing. His serious injuries, in the eyes of others, only needed a year's time. They naturally didn't know that Lin Yi's injuries had long recovered. And now, his cultivation strength had increased by a large margin. Cultivation realm, peak of the 5th level of the Wanxiang realm. Divine sense, level 34. 10-fold destruction blade, level 6. Heavenly phoenix divine seal, peak of the imperial seal. Divine dragon 9 transformations, peak of the 2nd transformation. Heavenly emperor fist, peak of the 2nd transformation. Heavenly frost aurora, level 1 greater mastery. Heavenly annihilating finger, level 1 initiation. Wings of space, he couldn't cultivate, but as long as he cultivated the 3,000 heavenly Taos, his wings of space would become stronger and the power of space would become stronger. He also didn't know what was going on with this situation. This was Lin Yi's current strength. With a thought, he left the 9-fold space and appeared in the room of the Mystic Ice Palace. He used to live here. After he was injured, he chose to heal here because he was more familiar with this place. The palace was still the same as before. There were no changes. The only change was that things remained the same, but people had changed. Luo Ling and Luo Bingyue were no longer in the Mystic Ice Palace. They had left the Yinshui Kingdom and were sent to a faraway place by the teleportation array to avoid the war between the Moon Kingdom and the Yinshui Kingdom. The war in the Yinshui Kingdom caused a trace of desolation to appear in the Cloud Water Metropolis. Shengwu College was the same. The autumn wind was rustling. In the entire Cloud Water Metropolis, there was no longer a genius with a spiritual pulse above the 6th grade. Without a genius, the Cloud Water Metropolis was more peaceful, even though the war had ended. Lin Yi walked out of the Mystic Ice Palace and headed towards the Sacred Martial Palace. Along the way, he still met many experts and martial artists, but it was less than half of what it was before. When they saw Lin Yi, they all greeted him respectfully. The young palace master should have recovered from his injuries. It's been more than 3 months. He should have recovered by now. Looking at his spirit, it should be correct. The war between the Yinshui Kingdom and the Moon Kingdom has ended. I wonder if the students who left will return to Shengwu College. Both sides suffered great losses in this war. It's not that both sides suffered great losses. The victory belongs to the Yinshui Kingdom. Indeed, the experts of the Yinshui Kingdom are still here. The geniuses only left temporarily. As for the Moon Kingdom, not only was the king killed by the young palace master, but dozens of super experts were also killed by the young palace master. Even the old ancestor of the Moon Kingdom was severely injured by the young palace master. The experts of the Shengwu College couldn't help but think of the war between the two countries when they saw Lin Yi. Whispers of discussion could be heard among the martial artists of the Shengwu College. Lin Yi's divine telekinesis was at level 34. Nothing within a 10-mile radius could escape his control. He naturally heard these discussions, but he didn't care at all. The situation in the Moon Kingdom was indeed not as good as before. If they didn't have full confidence, they wouldn't have dared to start a war, let alone come to the Yinshui Kingdom. As long as they didn't come to Cloud Water City, Lin Yi wouldn't be worried. However, a future threat would always be a future threat. Leaving such a threat alive would make him uneasy. If he had the power and opportunity, he would definitely eliminate Huang Fushi. Without Huang Fushi, the Baiwei Kingdom would be like a tiger without its fangs, not a threat at all. Palace Master Mo, Palace Master Donghua. After entering the Sacred Martial Palace, Lin Yi saw Mo Xuesong and Donghua Mingyu. The other Vice Palace Master and the other elders didn't come to the Sacred Martial Palace. He nodded at them as a greeting. He wasn't putting on airs or being arrogant. It was his identity and cultivation strength. In this world where the strong were respected, the concept of the strong being respected had long been ingrained in people's bones. Young Palace Master, how are your injuries? Mo Xuesong and Donghua Mingyu nodded at Lin Yi in return. After the three of them sat down, Mo Xuesong asked, I've fully recovered. May I know why the two palace masters are looking for me? Lin Yi nodded. Not only had his injuries completely healed, but his cultivation strength had also improved a lot. Chapter 59. Of course. Take a look at this first. Mo Xuesong smiled and took out a piece of animal skin and handed it to Lin Yi. This is a map. Lin Yi took the animal skin from Mo Xuesong and looked at it curiously. It was a disc-sized piece of animal skin with clear lines on it. It was actually a map. Lin Yi had seen animal skin maps before, but not many. Generally speaking, the maps used in ancient times were mostly animal skins, while the maps used today were mostly jade scrolls. Soon, Lin Yi was attracted by the markings on the map. Gradually, his expression became interesting, as though he had discovered a new continent. The entire map was the size of a disc, but the Sky-Sea realm was only a small red dot at the edge. Compared to the entire map, it was like the difference between an ocean and a drop of water. This small red dot was the Sky-Sea realm. Around the small red dot was the endless sea. There were continents in other parts of the sea. The entire animal skin map had 10% of the land and 90% of the sea. Yes, this is the map. The map around the Sky-Sea realm. Mo Xuesong nodded and said, this map had always been stored in the Paladin Academy's library, placed in a high pavilion. It was even preserved as the most precious cultivation technique. It could be said that this map was unique in the Sky-Sea realm. Without this map, The people of the Sky Sea Realm had always thought that the Sky Sea Realm was the entire world and did not know about the outside world. Palace Lord, what do you mean? Lin Yi looked away from the map and looked at Mo Shuesong and Dongwa Mingyu. The two deputy palace lords must have something to tell him for him to see the map. The disciples of the Yinshui kingdom were teleported away by the teleportation array. The place they appeared was probably the edge of the Sky Sea Realm. They either chose to join the Sky Sea sect or leave the Sky Sea Realm. But if they choose to leave the Sky Sea Realm, it is almost certain death. You can see from a map that outside the Sky Sea Realm is the sea. Now that you have recovered from your injuries, the outside world is your stage. You should leave too, Dongwa Mingyu said. The two of them wanted Lin Yi to leave Shengwu College. After all, with Lin Yi's talent, the Yinshui kingdom couldn't keep him. Staying in the Yinshui kingdom was a complete waste of talent and time. Only the outside world could give Lin Yi more room to display his talents. Moreover, the geniuses of the 4 academies of the Yinshui kingdom had already left. The disciples who left either chose to join the Heavenly Sea sect or leave the Heavenly Sea realm. With Lin Yi there, he could more or less take care of them and prevent all the geniuses of the Yinshui kingdom from vanishing. All right, Lin Yi pondered for a moment before replying. Originally, he still had many things to settle in the Sky Sea realm, but from the looks of it, leaving first was the right thing to do. The 100,000 mountains wouldn't run away. He would wait until his cultivation was strong enough before going to the 100,000 mountains. These are the 2 girls, Luo Xing'er and Luo Ling'er, left for you. Mo Shuesong heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Lin Yi had agreed. Then, he took out 2 jade slips from his storage bag and handed them to Lin Yi. These jade slips were left for Lin Yi by Luo Ling'er and Luo Xing'er. Brother-in-law, I'm leaving the Yinshui kingdom. Xing'er wanted to wait for you, but my sister didn't let me. Lin Yi took the 2 jade slips and inserted his divine thought into one of them. This jade slip was left by Luo Xing. In the jade slip, Luo Xing'er's voice sounded. It was a simple sentence, but there was a trace of stubbornness. He could imagine Luo Xing'er's reluctance. Mr. Lin, I'm leaving with Xing'er. I hope you can come back safely. We'll wait for you in a distant world. There's another secret. My cousin is still in the Luo family. Lin Yi inserted his divine thought into the other jade slip, and Luo Ling'er's voice sounded in his mind. She and Luo Xing'er had left the Yinshui kingdom together, but the ancient teleportation array was random. After entering, everyone would be separated. Although the 2 of them were together, they would definitely not be together when they appeared on the other side of the teleportation array. Upon hearing Luo Ling'er's last sentence, Lin Yi could not help but be stunned. The cousin Luo Ling'er was referring to his naturally Luo Bingyue. Luo Bingyue was a genius with a royal constitution from Shengwu College. Why didn't she leave with the other geniuses? Why did she stay in the Luo family instead? This puzzled him. Palace Master, Luo Bingyue didn't leave the Yinshui kingdom. Lin Yi withdrew his divine thought from the jade slip. He looked at the 2 deputy palace masters. No, she's waiting for you. Mo Shuesong smiled faintly. Although he might not be able to defeat Lin Yi, he was several times older than Lin Yi. In his eyes, Lin Yi was just a child. When he saw Lin Yi's situation, he was reminded of his own younger days. It was a youthful and tender age. There was unfamiliarity, sweetness, and nostalgia. Alas, Lin Yi sighed. For him, Luo Bingyue was just a fiancé. He didn't want the promise to bind Luo Bingyue. To be honest, Luo Bingyue was definitely the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Her beauty could topple cities, and her cold temperament kept people at arm's length. She was like a goddess who didn't belong to the mortal world. A fair lady was a good match for a gentleman. The relationship between the 2 was a little awkward. Let nature take its course. The teleportation array will be activated tomorrow. Dongwa Mingyu smiled. Then, the 2 deputy palace masters turned and left the Martial Saint Palace, leaving Lin Yi alone in the palace. Seeing the 2 deputy palace masters leave, Lin Yi also got up, but he walked to the back of the Martial Saint Palace. He came to the front of the ancestral hall and bowed to the statue of the Sage Emperor. He looked at Mister's memorial tablet. After a long time, Lin Yi bowed to Mister's memorial tablet and finally left the ancestral hall. The autumn wind was bleak in Cloudwater City. The departure of countless geniuses made Cloudwater City less lively and lively. The top 10 families were still the top 10 families. Because of Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue, the Luo family had become the #1 family. The two words Luo Province were written on the tall plaque, showing the strength of the Luo family. Young Master Lin. Young Master Lin. Under the plaque, the 4 guards of the psychic mirror were shocked at the arrival of Lin Yi. They rubbed their eyes in disbelief, thinking that they had seen wrongly. After confirming that it was indeed Lin Yi, they came back to their senses and bowed to Lin Yi. Who was Lin Yi? He was a super expert of the manifestation realm. He had killed more than half of the manifestation realm experts of the Moon Kingdom by himself. He had fought against Emperor Fuxi, turned the tide, and forced the army of the Moon Kingdom to retreat. He was called the #1 expert of the Yunshui Kingdom by countless people. However, such a #1 expert was only a teenager. To countless experts and geniuses, Lin Yi was a miracle, a legend. What made the Luo family even happier was that Lin Yi was Luo Bingyue's fiancée. Shoo! Lin Yi nodded in return. He stretched out his 10 fingers and made a shushing gesture. The 4 guards saw Lin Yi's gesture and knew that Lin Yi did not want them to announce his arrival. He did not want to alarm the others in Luo Province. He had only come because of Luo Bingyue. They naturally did not dare to ruin Lin Yi's mood and could only nod. From start to finish, Lin Yi did not stop walking. He walked step by step into the Luo Manor. Actually, he was not familiar with the structure of Luo Province after living in Luo Province for half a month. Fortunately, he only knew where Luo Bingyue lived. He walked directly to the courtyard where Luo Bingyue lived. There was a beautiful figure in the courtyard. She had an otherworldly aura that made her seem otherworldly. Her moon-white dress made her look even more beautiful. She was flawless from head to toe. She was cold and arrogant, keeping people at arm's length. This was Luo Bingyue. Lin Yi's footsteps were light, like falling leaves on the ground. Soon, he was near Luo Bingyue. They looked at each other without speaking. The air was peaceful and harmonious. Tomorrow, I will leave the Yunshui Kingdom. What about you? Let's leave together. After an unknown period of time, Lin Yi spoke. There was a slight smile on his face. Okay. Luo Bingyue nodded and nodded. Her voice was as cold as ever, but Lin Yi was already used to it. If Luo Bingyue became gentle, he would feel suspicious and even a little uncomfortable. Gentle and cute, that was Luo Xing. The two sisters looked exactly the same and were extremely beautiful. Only their personalities were different. This is for you. Lin Yi stretched out his hand and an exquisite lotus appeared in his palm. The lotus was like jade and exuded a terrifying icy power. In a few breaths, the ground within 100 meters was covered in frost. It was as if this space was going to be frozen. This is a divine weapon. Luo Bingyue was born with a body of ice and practiced the heavenly ice skill. She was very familiar with the ice element. When she felt the icy power exuding from the lotus, she could not help but be shocked and excited. This icy power was too terrifying. This power was definitely a divine weapon. Ice Heart's sacred lotus. Lin Yi nodded. This was indeed a divine weapon. Moreover, it was more powerful than the Sky Flame's sacred saber. The Ice Heart's sacred lotus was one of the 17 treasures he obtained in the new secret realm. An ice element divine weapon was indeed powerful, but it was not suitable for him. If he could exert 1/10 of the power of the Ice Heart's sacred lotus, then Luo Bingyue could exert the power of the Ice Heart's sacred lotus. Anyway, he could not use it. Giving it to Luo Bingyue could enhance Luo Bingyue's strength. 8 divine runes. 8th rank divine weapon. Luo Bingyue carefully examined the Ice Heart sacred lotus and found 8 divine runes that could destroy heaven and earth. She could not help but be shocked. Surprise flashed across her beautiful face. 1 divine rune was a 1st-rank divine weapon. 2 divine runes were a 2nd-rank divine weapon. This Ice Heart sacred lotus had 8 divine runes, which made it an 8th-rank divine weapon. An 8th-rank divine weapon was more than 8 times stronger than a 1st-rank divine weapon. Let's refine it first. The ancient transmission array will open tomorrow. Lin Yi withdrew his hand, and the ice heart sacred lotus floated in the air. Chapter 60. The next day, early in the morning, Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue left Luo province. Ancient teleportation array, random teleportation. Let's meet in Tianhai City and look for Xing, and the others first. The two left Luo province and rushed in the direction of Shengwu College. On the way, Lin Yi said, although he didn't know what Luo Bingyue was planning, he had to tell Luo Bingyue the most basic things first. The ancient teleportation array could teleport people very far away. However, it wasn't a fixed location and could only teleport people to an approximate location. During the teleportation, the people inside would be randomly separated. Okay, Lin Yi, you helped Xing achieve her sacred life constitution, right? Luo Bingyue followed Lin Yi and the two walked side by side. She was cold and spoke very little. She only replied to Lin Yi with an okay. However, this time, Luo Bingyue stopped and stared at Lin Yi with her beautiful eyes. Xing told you? Lin Yi was stunned. Then he nodded. Luo Xing, and Luo Bingyue were biological sisters. It wasn't impossible for Luo Xing, to tell Luo Bingyue. Besides, it wasn't something shameful. He just told Luo Xing not to let others know that she had a sacred life constitution. No, I can see through other people's talents. In the past, Xing only had a spiritual pulse. Some time ago, her cultivation rose sharply and reached the Heaven Star border realm without any hindrance. She was even faster than me, so I took a look. I saw that she has a terrifying life force that belongs to the life attribute. It should be the sacred life constitution. Luo Bingyue looked at Lin Yi. Not only did she have an ice body, but she also had a magical talent. They could see things that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Luo Xing's terrifying cultivation speed made her curious and puzzled. She inadvertently took a look at Luo Xing's talent and shockingly discovered that her younger sister actually had a terrifying life force, and it was the life attribute. Needless to say, the strength of this life attribute was not something an emperor body could compare to. In other words, his sister was a sacred being of life. She couldn't figure out what kind of heaven-defying opportunity her sister had obtained. The only thing she could think of was Lin Yi. Lin Yi was a mysterious existence. Maybe Luo Xing's sacred life physique had something to do with Lin Yi. Yes, last time in the secret realm, I opened Sky Capital Peak's treasury. Half of the treasures are in my hands, and the other half came into being. I encountered a source of life, so I snatched it back and gave it to Xing to refine. She achieved the sacred body of life. Lin Yi said casually. The last time he snatched the crystal of life, he almost lost his life. Fortunately, Luo Xing had a heaven-defying opportunity and achieved the sacred body of life, so he didn't get hurt for nothing. This girl has made you worry. Luo Bingyue said, looked away, and walked forward. Lin Yi shook his head and followed. After returning to Cebu Gakuen, Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue went directly to Sacred Martial Palace. The ancient teleportation array opened, and under the rotation of the array patterns, Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue disappeared. The outside world is their stage. Mo Shuesong looked at Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue's disappearing figures and said, the Sky Sea realm is about to face a catastrophe. The farther they go, the better. Dong Wamingyu's face was expressionless as he said lightly, in ancient times, the demons wreaked havoc in the Sky Sea realm. A destructive sword beam descended from the 9 heavens, and the demons fell silent. Countless years have passed, and now the demons are everywhere. The seal has loosened, and the Sky Sea realm is doomed. Mo Shuesong looked up at the sky. According to the ancient records, the demons wreaked havoc in the Sky Sea realm in ancient times and almost destroyed the entire realm. Fortunately, a destructive sword beam descended from the 9 heavens and destroyed countless demons. Some powerful demons were sealed, and the Sky Sea realm calmed down. Although the Sky Sea realm's demons were sealed, the Sky Sea realm's martial arts declined, and it was separated from the other realms, forming a natural moat. If Lin Yi can grow, there might be a glimmer of hope. Donghua Mingyu thought of Lin Yi's monstrous talent. In less than 2 years, he had reached the manifestation realm from the Khanate realm. If this continued, Lin Yi would become even stronger in a few decades or even a century or two. At that time, he might be able to save the Sky Sea realm. You must be kidding. Lin Yi's talent is heaven-defying, but time does not wait for him. Besides, there were countless saints in ancient times, but none of them could resist the demons. Now, there are no more saints, so how can we resist the demons? Even if a saint appears, there is no way to save the Sky Sea realm. Mo Shuesong smiled bitterly. In ancient times, there were countless saints. Even then, the demons also trampled on humans. In the current Sky Sea realm, even the Yinshui kingdom did not have many manifestation realm experts, let alone saints. As for the Yin-Yang realm, they were extinct in the Yinshui kingdom. How many Yin-Yang realm experts were there in the Sky Sea realm? Could a Yin-Yang realm expert resist the demons? This was obviously impossible. Swoosh, swoosh, in the ancient teleportation array, light flashed. There was even a terrifying storm. Just this storm alone was enough to tear an ordinary Khanate realm martial artist to pieces. Only spirit movement realm martial artists could ignore this storm, but they did not dare to be careless. Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue shuttled through the storm of the teleportation array. Luo Bingyue's cultivation had already reached the Heaven Dipper realm, so she naturally did not fear the storm. Lin Yi did not need to be mentioned. Even if he had not reached the manifestation realm, he could rely on his Divine Dragon 9 transformations to resist the power of the storm. They did not know how long they had been teleporting, but the two of them felt empty around them, and a feeling of weightlessness surged over them. Their subconscious reaction was to circulate their cultivation technique, so that they could slow down their descent as much as possible. See, the wings of space stabilized the space around Lin Yi. They floated in the air and slowly landed on the ground. Like a falling leaf, the sound was extremely soft as it landed on the ground. Lin Yi scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and found that there was no one within a 10-mile radius. This place was a wilderness, the territory of demonic beasts. Luo Bingyue was also not in his divine sense. Whoosh, 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 Lin Yi's figure flashed, and his divine sense extended to a 10-mile radius. Every time his divine sense covered a 10-mile radius, he scanned a 1,000-mile radius with himself as the center. His divine sense was severely exhausted, and his spirit was a little weak. He sighed in his heart. The ancient teleportation array was indeed powerful. When they first came out, Luo Bingyue was still with him. After they came out, the two of them were separated very far away. There is no sign of Luo Bingyue within a 1,000-mile radius. Lin Yi could only leave this place and head to Tianhai City. He would wait for Luo Bingyue there. This was what the two of them had agreed upon in the Yinshui kingdom. What he wanted to know the most now was his current location, whether he had left the Yinshui kingdom, and where exactly he was. In one day, Lin Yi entered Tianhai City. Tianhai City was led by the Tianhai sect. In other words, the entire Sky Sea realm was under the rule of the Tianhai sect. This was the center of the entire Sky Sea realm. It was the strongest and had the most experts. In Tianhai City, there were plenty of Heaven Star Realm experts, and Manifestation Realm experts could be seen everywhere. The status of Manifestation Realm experts in Tianhai City was as common as Khanate Realm experts in the Yinshui Kingdom. Heart of the Sword Intent. Lin Yi had just entered the Heaven Sea City when he felt a trace of a familiar calling. He was very familiar with this calling. It was just like on the altar. The sword gleam in his mind felt the calling, or rather, it sensed the existence of other sword gleams. At Shengwu College, the teacher left him a sword gleam. He obtained the other 1/3 of the heart of the sword intent from the altar. Now, he lacked the remaining 1/3 of the heart of the sword intent. As long as he obtained the remaining 1/3 of the heart of the sword intent, he would be able to complete the heart of the sword intent. When the heart of the sword intent was complete, the divine sword would appear. He did not expect the remaining 1/3 of the heart of the sword intent to be in Tianhai City. It was truly a case of traveling far and wide in search of something, only to find it by chance. Thinking of this, he decided that he had to stay here for a while and strive to obtain the heart of the sword intent. He wanted to complete his heart of the sword and make the divine sword appear. With his hands behind his back, he followed the feeling of the sword intent in his mind and walked forward. 1 day, 2 days. On the 5th day, Lin Yi stopped. He could no longer move forward. In front of him was the Tianhai sect, which was also the center of Tianhai City. If he continued forward, he could only enter the Tianhai sect. However, he was not a disciple of the Tianhai sect and naturally could not enter. Tianhai sect. It was a tall plaque with bold and vigorous words. It gave people an indescribable shock. This was the overlord of the Sky Sea realm. It ruled the entire Sky Sea realm. Even the Shangjin kingdom, which was the top of the 36 kingdoms, could not be compared to the Tianhai sect. This is the Tianhai sect. Please show your token to enter the Tianhai sect. A loud and clear voice sounded. This voice pulled Lin Yi back from his thoughts. Looking in the direction of the voice, he saw a few experts patrolling the Tianhai sect under the plaque. On the left side of their clothes, there was a light blue badge. Needless to say, this badge was the token of the Tianhai sect. These patrolling experts of the Tianhai sect saw that Lin Yi did not have a badge and naturally did not let Lin Yi near the Tianhai sect. I am from the Yunshui kingdom. I have admired the Tianhai sect for a long time. I want to join the Tianhai sect and pursue the profound martial path. How should I go about it? Lin Yi took a step forward and said. When the martial artists passing by heard Lin Yi say this, they looked at Lin Yi as if he was a joke. Join the Tianhai sect? It is not that easy to join the Tianhai sect. One of the patrolling experts of the Tianhai sect looked at Lin Yi with disdain and said, in his opinion, this youth was not a genius and naturally could not be an expert. It was a complete joke for him to want to join the Tianhai sect. The Tianhai sect was a sect that could be joined at will. The Tianhai sect was like a holy land of martial arts in the Sky Sea realm. Yes, let me tell you. Lin Yi had a smile on his face. No matter where it was, there would always be a mix of good and bad people. Although the Tianhai sect was like a holy land of the Sky Sea realm and was the invisible ruler of the 36 kingdoms, there were more than 100 people and all kinds of people. He naturally would not be calculative with these people. There are 3 ways. Challenge the Sword Pavilion, challenge the 9 Peaks, and recruit disciples every 10 years. Chapter 61. Challenge the Sword Pavilion, the 9th mountain? Lin Yi was stunned. Of the 3 methods, the last one was out of the question. He couldn't wait for the recruitment of disciples once every 10 years. After eliminating one of the 3 methods, the first 2 were challenging the Sword Pavilion or the 9th mountain. That's right. If you are recognized by the Sword Pavilion, you will be a disciple of the Heavenly Sea sect. If you pass the 9th mountain, you will also become a disciple of the Heavenly Sea sect. Another expert among the patrolling experts of the Heavenly Sea sect said. His name was Zhong Shuqing, and he was at the 3rd level of the manifestation realm. He had been in the Heavenly Sea sect for 10 years. Although he had reached the all-manifestation realm, he was definitely at the bottom of the Heavenly Sea sect. The disciples of the Heavenly Sea sect with no status would do all kinds of missions. Where is the Sword Pavilion? Lin Yi asked. The sword light in his mind had sensed the heart of the sword. Needless to say, the heart of the sword must be related to the Sword Pavilion. It was a good idea to challenge the Sword Pavilion. Even if he couldn't get the heart of the sword, he could take a look and confirm it. Unfortunately, the Sword Pavilion opens once a month. You can challenge the 9th mountain today. Zhong Shuqing said. The Sword Pavilion and the 9th mountain opened once a month, but there were no restrictions for the disciples of the Heavenly Sea sect. Hearing that Lin Yi wanted to challenge the Sword Pavilion, Zhong Shuqing explained to Lin Yi. Thank you. Then I will challenge the 9th mountain. Lin Yi looked indifferent. Whether it was the Sword Pavilion or the 9th mountain, he didn't care. After all, he had experienced a lot. As long as talent and strength could solve the problem, it was not a problem. I will take you there. Zhong Shuqing nodded. He didn't believe that Lin Yi could pass the 9th mountain. Although the Heavenly Sea sect didn't have a cultivation level requirement for the martial artist challenging the Sword Pavilion and the 9th mountain, without great strength, there was no chance at all. The sword pavilion was fine. It was a test of sword talent and didn't require great strength. However, the ninth mountain required great strength and talent. The Heavenly Sea sect was built on a mountain. The entire sect was built on the Heavenly Sea Peak. Sky Sea Peak had a diameter of 1,000 miles and a height of 30,000 meters. Standing at the peak, it was as if one was above the nine heavens. The entire Sky Sea City could be seen at a glance. Heavenly Sea City also surrounded Heavenly Sea Peak, making it the center of the city. In the entire Sky Sea realm, only Sky Sea City did not have a city wall. Zhang Xuqing led Lin Yi to the other side of the Celestial Sea sect. He did not bring Lin Yi through the main gate of the Celestial Sea sect. Only warriors of the Celestial Sea sect and visitors could enter the Celestial Sea sect. If one wanted to become a disciple of the Heavenly Sea sect, they had to challenge the Sword Pavilion and the Ninth Mountain. The entrances to the Ninth Mountain and the Sword Pavilion were on the other side of the Heavenly Sea sect. 15 minutes later, Zhang Xuqing brought Lin Yi to a public square. At the end of the public square was a space-time door. The space-time door flickered with a mysterious light, like a monster that could devour the world. Outside the gate of time and space, there were countless experts waiting to enter. Behind the gate of time and space is the Ninth Mountain. The Ninth Mountain has a total of 81 peaks. As long as you can reach the ninth peak, you could become a disciple of the Celestial Sea sect. I wish you good luck. Zhang Xuqing and Lin Yi arrived at the public square and said to Lin Yi. He entered the Celestial Sea sect only once every 10 years. He was not chosen to challenge the Sword Pavilion or the Ninth Mountain. However, the disciples of the Celestial Sea sect were most enthusiastic about challenging the Ninth Mountain. This was because challenging the Sword Pavilion and the Ninth Mountain could not only test one's talent and strength, but also make a name for oneself and obtain precious rewards. Thank you, Brother Zhang. Lin Yi nodded and thanked him. The two of them walked towards the gate of time and space. However, it seemed that they would have to wait for a while before entering the gate of time and space. This was because the ninth heaven was the same as the Sword Pavilion. It opened once a month, and countless warriors who wanted to challenge the Ninth Mountain would come. Even some experts of the Celestial Sea sect wanted to show off here. As they spoke, Lin Yi began to line up and enter the gate of time and space in order. Time passed by minute. 3 hours had passed, and there was only one person in front of Lin Yi. For a warrior, this amount of time was nothing. Lin Yi was lining up while cultivating. The true essence in his body circulated continuously, and it was constantly increasing. Soon, it was Lin Yi's turn to enter the gate of time and space. Just as Lin Yi stepped towards the gate of time and space, a voice sounded. The voice was extremely arrogant and even rude. Lin Yi could not help but frown. Senior sister, Lingling wants to go to the Ninth Mountain. Don't you have eyes? The voice came from not far behind Lin Yi. At the same time, there were countless footsteps, and a faint fragrance wafted into Lin Yi's nose. Lin Yi stopped and turned around to look behind him. He saw a beautiful woman, surrounded by 7 or 8 young men, walking towards the gate of time and space. The woman looked to be in her 20s, and her tall figure was mysterious. The 7 or 8 young men had fawning looks on their faces. The one who spoke was one of the young men. Most of the people here are here to challenge the Ninth Mountain. Do I need you to remind me? Your senior sister, Lingling, wants to go to the Ninth Mountain. What does it have to do with me? Don't you know how to line up? Lin Yi was furious. He looked at one of the young men coldly, and his gaze was as sharp as a sword. If you respect me, I'll return the favor tenfold. If they were rude to him, he would not be polite. Why did the strong want to be strong? The strong wanted to live freely, and no one would dare to trample on them. The strong wanted others to respect them. If you were strong, they would be weak. Do you want to die? Hearing Lin Yi's words, Zhang Yao's expression changed. He did not expect that a young man would dare to talk back to him. He did not care about senior sister Lingling at all, and was provoked in front of so many people. He could not help but feel embarrassed and angry. He originally wanted to please senior sister Lingling, but now, not only did he fail to please senior sister Lingling, but he also became a laughingstock. More importantly, as an expert of the Heavenly Sea sect, he would not be so easily humiliated. Not to mention that this young man did not enter the Heavenly Sea sect. Even if he did, he would have to listen to him. The Heavenly Sea sect was a small world, and as long as there were people, there would be conflicts. Scram, Lin Yi said indifferently. He turned and walked towards the gate of time and space. Entering the Heavenly Sea sect was more important. As for this young man and senior sister Lingling, he did not care at all. Lin Ye's actions shocked countless experts, and, at the same time, they felt sorry for Lin Yi. However, there was always something hateful about Lin Yi. He could only blame himself for being arrogant and offending someone he should not have. The young men beside senior sister Lingling looked at Lin Yi with disdain. Then, they all looked at Zhang Yao. It was rare for Zhang Yao to embarrass himself in front of senior sister Lingling, so they were naturally happy. Die! Zhang Yao could feel the gazes from his companions. A strong murderous intent rose from his body as he channeled his true yuan and threw a punch at Lin Yi. The domineering fist light tore through space, and its power was abnormally terrifying. All the experts near the gate of time and space were shocked. They quickly moved out of the way so that they would not be caught in the crossfire. With Lin Ye's divine telekinesis, he could grasp everything within a 10-mile radius in his mind, not to mention the things around him. Naturally, he could feel Zhang Yao's murderous intent and horrifying fist light. However, he did not even turn around, and he did not even stop. With a backhand punch, he met Zhang Yao's fist light with twice the power of an invincible attack. He was at the peak of the 5th level of the Wanxiang realm, and he was invincible among his peers. It could even be said that with his current cultivation, even those at the peak of the 9th level of the Wanxiang realm might not be able to defeat him. Not to mention that Zhang Yao was only at the 6th level of the Wanxiang realm, which was similar to Lin Yi. However, Lin Ye's physique and strength, as well as the true yuan and his dantian, were 10 times stronger than those at the same level. Even without using any martial skills, the power that he could unleash was terrifying. Boom! With a muffled sound, the fist light collided with the fist light. The space was distorted and torn apart, shattering inch by inch. Zhang Yao's body was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. At the same time, he spat out a mouthful of blood, creating a bloody curtain in the air. It was extremely tragic. In the end, Zhang Yao's body fell heavily on the square 100 meters away. In front of the gate of time and space, everyone was stunned. They could not believe that this scene was real. They could not help but rub their eyes, suspecting that their eyes were playing tricks on them. A young man, who did not reveal his true strength, had so casually injured Zhang Yao, who was at the 6th level of the Wanxiang realm. It was too unbelievable. Before this, they naturally did not believe that Lin Yi was at the Wanxiang realm. They thought that Lin Yi was just a young man who had just stepped into the Heaven Star border or was only at the spiritual formation realm. After all, Lin Yi was too young. Who would have known that not only was Lin Yi terrifying, but he was so terrifying that he could instantly defeat Zhang Yao, who was at the 6th level of the Wanxiang realm, without using any martial skills. How dare you? How dare you injure someone from the Heavenly Sea sect? Besides senior sister Lingling, a young man at the 8th level of the Wanxiang realm stared coldly at Lin Yi. He opened his mouth and said righteously. His cultivation and strength were several times stronger than Zhang Yao's. Previously, when Zhang Yao was provoked by Lin Yi, he was gloating from the side. Now that Lin Yi had injured Zhang Yao, he could step out to defend the Heavenly Sea sect and show his strength and prestige. As he spoke, he glanced at senior sister Lingling's expression from the corner of his eyes. Get lost. You better not provoke me. Lin Yi stopped and turned around slowly. He looked coldly at Long Zhun, who had just spoken. This was the first time he had encountered someone at the 8th level of the Wanxiang realm. He could not afford to be careless, lest he fail miserably. He had injured Zhang Yao and caused quite a commotion. At this moment, countless onlookers had gathered near the gate of time and space. These experts looked at Lin Yi with curiosity and surprise. They did not expect that a young man would dare to go against an expert from the Heavenly Sea sect. Arrogant. Long Zhen's expression was ugly. He felt like he had brought shame upon himself. Although he did not take this young man seriously, he had been humiliated by him. This was an indisputable fact. Even if he killed this young man, he would still be humiliated. In his opinion, Zhang Yao had been sent flying by Lin Yi with one punch. In his opinion, Zhang Yao had been too careless. Even if this young man was strong, he would not be a match for him. As he spoke, a long sword appeared in his hand. He formed a sword sign, and a sword light enveloped Lin Yi. The power of the sword light caused the space to distort and tremble. In an instant, the sword light landed in front of Lin Yi. Chapter 62. The genius powerhouse at the 8th level of the manifestation realm casually swung his sword, creating a sword gleam. The sword gleam distorted the space and instantly landed in front of Lin Yi. This sword was enough to severely injure Lin Yi and even kill Lin Yi. Seeing that Lin Yi was about to be hit by the sword gleam, Lin Yi waved his hand and a long saber appeared in his hand. When the long saber appeared, Lin Yi had already swung his hand. Suddenly, a sword gleam cut through the space. Tenfold Destruction Saber, 6th level. 32 sword gleams formed a profound sword gleam. Wherever it passed, the sword gleam turned into dust and disappeared in the air. The sword gleam's power did not diminish and continued to slash in front of Long Zhen. Although it was launched later, it arrived first. It didn't injure Lin Yi, but Lin Yi easily neutralized the power of the sword light, putting himself in danger. Countless powerhouses near the space-time gate were shocked. They did not expect this young man to be so terrifying. The expression on Long Zhen's face was even more unsightly. He knew that he had kicked an iron plate. However, he could not back down now. He could only brace himself and continue. Moreover, if he continued to hold back, he would be seriously injured by the saber light. By then, not only would he be severely injured, but he would also lose face. Sword of Sword Intent. Long Zhen made up his mind and fully unleashed his sword principal talent. The Sword of Sword Intent turned into an invisible sword and blocked the 32 sword gleams. The sword gleams were instantly shattered by the Sword of Sword Intent. The sword gleams were shattered and the Sword of Sword Intent revealed its original form. A gigantic sword silhouette slammed toward Lin Yi. Wherever it passed, the space would shatter and shatter. Sword Intent, not bad, but you're too weak. When Lin Yi saw the Sword of Sword Intent, he nodded gently with a smile on his face. 2/3 of the Heart of Sword Intent in his mind was the Heart of Sword Intent. As long as the Heart of Sword Intent was perfected, he could make the divine sword appear. Naturally, he knew about the Sword of Sword Intent. He could even control the Sword of Sword Intent and the Saber of Saber Intent. However, if he wanted to use the Sword of Sword Intent and the Saber of Saber Intent, he would have to expend a lot of energy. It was not worth it, unless one Sword Intent and Saber Intent reached perfection. At that time, using the Sword Intent Sword and Saber Intent Saber would not consume energy or harm one's foundation. As he spoke, he had already put away the spiritual weapon blade in his hand. What came in exchange was the Skyflame Sacred Blade. Previously, he had used the level 8 spiritual weapon saber and the tenfold destruction saber, but he had not been able to defeat Long Zhen. However, it was different now that he had switched to a saint weapon. His power was more than 100 times stronger than before. Voila, it was the same 6th level of the tenfold destruction blade. Space twisted and shattered as 32 blade beams formed a net of blade beams. The blade beams shone with a wondrous light as the might of a sacred artifact burst forth at that very moment. Rumble, rumble, with a loud explosion, the saber light destroyed the Sword Intense sword as easily as cutting vegetables. In an instant, the sword will of the sword burst forth. The saber light landed in front of Long Zhen. Long Zhen's eyes were filled with shock. He could no longer care about anything else and used his life-saving technique. A ray of light shone on his chest and protected him. However, the The power of the tenfold destruction blade from the Sky Flame's sacred blade was not something he could withstand. He spat out a mouthful of blood as his body flew out like a kite with a short string. Very powerful. The area around the space-time gate was silent. Zhang Yao was severely injured. Long Zhun was severely injured. Lin Yi stood tall. He had already put away the Sky Flame sacred blade in his hand. His face was calm, and there was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. It was as if none of this had anything to do with him. All the experts were shocked. When they looked at Lin Yi, their eyes were filled with fear. At that moment, senior sister Lingling, who had been silent all this time, spoke. Her voice was crisp and sweet like a silver bell. Hearing it, one could not help but be intoxicated. Thank you for your compliment, senior sister. Lin Yi smiled. He did not dislike senior sister Lingling, nor did he have a good impression of her. After all, it was his first time meeting her. Although she was surrounded by a few young men, he did not feel disgusted. No matter where and when, a beauty was a scenery. If no one pursued her, she would not be a beauty. For example, Luo Bingyue, Luo Xing, and Luo Ling had plenty of suitors. You haven't entered the Heavenly Sea sect yet. You're so confident about the ninth mountain? With a sweet smile on her face, senior sister Lingling walked up to Lin Yi in small, quick steps. The two of them spoke calmly, as if they were close friends. The others were completely ignored by the two, as if they were air. Senior sister, do you think it will be difficult for me to pass the ninth mountain? Lin Yi smiled faintly. He knew nothing about the ninth mountain. However, he was confident that he could pass the ninth mountain and become a disciple of the Heavenly Sea sect. Then I'll see you at the Heavenly Sea sect. Senior sister Lingling looked at Lin Yi with her beautiful eyes and giggled. Her smile could topple a city, and her smile could topple a country. Senior sister Lingling was already beautiful to begin with, but when she giggled, she was even more alluring. After she finished speaking, she turned and walked away. As for the few young men who were following her, they were completely ignored by her. Seeing that senior sister Lingling had left, the other young men also left the gate of time and space. Zhang Yao and Long Zhun's eyes were filled with fear and viciousness. They looked at Lin Yi and then left. Lin Yi wore a smile on his face, as if he was at ease. To him, this was just a small interlude. Under countless surprised and envious gazes, Lin Yi walked towards the gate of time and space and entered it. Whoosh! As soon as Lin Yi entered the gate of time and space, he was transported to a huge mountain. The huge mountain emitted a mysterious aura, and a terrifying aura crushed the space, causing it to tremble. This is the ninth mountain. Lin Yi looked at the huge mountain and could not help but be shocked. It looked like a huge mountain, but behind the huge mountain, there were overlapping peaks. Each peak was higher than the previous one, and the aura was stronger than the previous one. It was not easy to climb up. Thump, 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 thump. After observing for a while, Lin Yi started to climb up the ninth mountain. As soon as he stepped on the peak, he felt a terrifying aura. The terrifying aura continued to crush Lin Yi. Moreover, there was a soul attack in the aura. If it was someone with weak willpower, even if they were not crushed by the aura, their willpower would be disrupted by the soul attack. Aura, soul attack, and willpower crush. This was how Lin Yi felt about the ninth mountain. The ninth mountain was a test of one's soul and willpower, as well as one's powerful strength. Feeling the soul attack, one's divine telekinesis would automatically spread out and neutralize the soul attack. Lin Yi's figure flashed, and he quickly dashed towards the peak of the mountain. In less than 15 minutes, Lin Yi arrived at the peak of the first peak. Standing at the peak of the first peak, when he looked down, it was foggy, and he could not see anything. Whoosh! Just as Lin Yi was about to dash towards the second peak, there was a slight sound of wind in the air. The sound of wind was within the range of Lin Yi's divine telekinesis, and he did not need to look to know that a young man had appeared at the peak of the mountain. It was a young man at the peak of the 5th level of the manifestation stage. The young man was expressionless. Defeat me or kill me. Then it will be considered as passing the first peak. You will be injured or you will die. It's all an illusion. The young man's cold voice sounded, and when his voice fell, The long sword in his hand had already slashed out. In an instant, before Lin Yi could react, the sword ray from the long sword had already landed in front of Lin Yi. Its speed and power were extremely terrifying. If that's the case, then you can die. Lin Yi's reaction was extremely terrifying. The moment the sword ray landed on his body, Lin Yi threw out a punch. The terrifying power of the Celestial Emperor Fist directly shattered the sword ray. With his powerful divine telekinesis, his reaction and thinking had reached a monstrous level. Not to mention those of the same level. Even those who were 1 or 2 levels higher than him might not be able to compare to him in terms of thinking and reaction. After shattering the sword ray with a punch, he waved his hand. The Skyflame Sacred Saber appeared in his hand, and a saber ray scattered. Boom! The young man spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body flew backward. Immediately after, the young man's figure shattered into pieces and disappeared. I see. Seeing the young man shatter into pieces and disappear, Lin Yi understood in his heart that the 9th Peak's test was not only about climbing, but also an opponent at the peak of the same level was waiting for you. He was at the peak of the 5th level of the manifestation stage, and the opponent that appeared was also at the peak of the 5th level of the manifestation stage. Moreover, it was a top existence among the peak of the 5th level. Moreover, the injuries and deaths during the battle were only illusions and not real injuries and deaths. His figure flashed, and he flew toward the 2nd peak. 15 minutes later, Lin Yi appeared at the peak of the 2nd peak. At the peak of the 2nd peak, 2 young men at the peak of the 5th level of the manifestation stage appeared and blocked Lin Yi's path to the 3rd peak. Lin Yi knew that only by defeating the 2 young men in front of him could he pass the 2nd peak. Without hesitation, he made the first move. The Skyflame's Sacred Saber slashed out. 32 saber rays of the 10th stage Destruction Saber descended and enveloped the 2 young men. The saber rays disappeared, and the 2 young men flew backward. Whoosh, 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 Lin Yi flew toward the 3rd peak. When he reached the peak of the 3rd peak, 3 young men at the peak of the 5th level of the manifestation stage appeared. The 3 of them had the same appearance, the same strength, and the same expression. Everything was exactly the same. The 10th stage Destruction Saber slashed out, and 32 saber rays covered the sky. 3rd peak pass. 15 minutes later, Lin Yi defeated 4 young men at the peak of the 5th level of the manifestation stage and passed the 4th peak. 5th peak, pass. 6th peak, pass on the 7th peak. There were 7 young men at the peak of the 5th level of the manifestation stage. Lin Yi used the Skyflame Sacred Saber, the 10th stage Destruction Saber, and the Heavenly Emperor Fist to kill the 7 powerful opponents. The number of opponents increased, and their strength increased. On the peak, the pressure became more terrifying, and the soul attacks became sharper. 15 minutes later, Lin Yi passed the 7th peak. Another 15 minutes later, Lin Yi passed the 8th peak. 4 hours after entering the 9th peak, Lin Yi finally stood at the peak of the 9th peak. The 9 peak experts at the peak of the 5th level of the manifestation stage on the 9th peak were killed one by one, but Lin Yi also suffered some injuries. Congratulations on passing the 1st peak's 9th peak. Now, you're qualified to become a member of the Heavenly Sea Sect. Since it's your first time passing the 1st peak's 9th peak, you are rewarded with 1 drop of 9 drops of spirit liquid. A mechanical voice sounded. At the same time, strands of mysterious light appeared on the peak. Chapter 63. Lin Yi was intrigued by the scene in front of him. Spirit liquid? He did not know what it was. However, he would only be rewarded if he reached the 1st level of the 9th peak. This spirit liquid should be of great help to a warrior's cultivation. It seemed like the benefits that the warriors mentioned were these rewards. Beep! Just as Lin Yi was in a daze, a drop of sparkling and translucent spirit liquid fell from the mystical light. When the spirit liquid appeared, Lin Yi felt a strong fluctuation of spiritual qi. The true essence in his body could not help but become excited. Lin Yi could not help but be shocked. Seeing that the spirit liquid was about to drip onto the ground, Lin Yi used his divine telekinesis. An exquisite jade bottle appeared in his hand and caught the drop of spirit liquid. After the first drop of spirit liquid appeared, the second drop followed closely behind. Lin Yi used 10 jade bottles to store the 10 drops of spirit liquid. You already have the qualifications to become a member of the Tianhai sect. Do you want to join the Tianhai sect? Lin Yi put away the spirit liquid, and the mystical light disappeared. At this time, a loud voice entered Lin Yi's ears. With his divine telekinesis, he sensed that it was a middle-aged warrior. The middle-aged warrior had a badge of the Tianhai sect on his clothes. However, this badge was different from the patrolling warrior's badge that he saw at the beginning. The patrolling warrior's badge was gold. This middle-aged warrior's badge was purple. This meant that this warrior's status and identity in the Tianhai sect was much higher than the patrolling warriors. The status and identity of the Tianhai sect warriors was distinguished by their badges. Greetings, senior. I want to join the Tianhai sect. Lin Yi could sense that the middle-aged warrior had a terrifying aura. He had encountered this aura from Huang Fushi before. It was a domineering aura that only a Yin-Yang realm warrior could have. This was a Yin-Yang realm warrior. He could sense that this Yin-Yang realm warrior was much stronger than Huang Fushi. In the Tianhai realm, warriors below the Yin-Yang realm were of the same generation, and warriors above the Yin-Yang realm were of the same generation. In other words, the Yin-Yang realm was a dividing line between warriors. Although he was talented, he was only at the manifestation realm. When he saw a Yin-Yang realm warrior, he only had to call them senior to show respect. You still want to challenge the 9th mountain? Zhao Tianlong sized up Lin Yi with a calm expression. He was in the 2nd stage of the Yin-Yang realm and cultivated a mysterious technique. Even if he encountered a 3rd stage of the Yin-Yang realm, he would be able to fight or even kill them. This kind of cultivation method had another effect, and that was to see through the cultivation level and age of an expert of the same level or even a higher level. When he first met Lin Yi, he was only 16 years old. At the age of 16, his cultivation had reached the peak of the 5th level of the manifestation stage. More importantly, Lin Yi's cultivation was not fake. He possessed terrifying strength. Otherwise, he would not have been able to make it to the 9th summit. He was sure that the young man in front of him was a super monster. Junior would like to take a look. Lin Yi nodded. Indeed, he really wanted to see how strong he was. Only by truly understanding one's own strength would one be able to perform better. Go! Zhao Tianlong waved his hand, his heart filled with curiosity. After that, he sat cross-legged on the peak of the 1st level mountain and looked at Lin Yi. He also wanted to know how strong this young man could be. Lin Yi bowed and moved in a flash. He activated the Luo water scripture and divine telekinesis to resist the pressure and soul attack on the 2nd level mountain as he dashed towards the peak. The 2nd level mountain was even more terrifying than the 1st level mountain. The two were on 2 completely different levels and could not be compared at all. Lin Yi also felt strained. However, the more it was like this, the more excited he was. This was because it was challenging and he could test his true strength. At the same time, he was also interested in the rewards on the 9th level mountain. The higher he climbed, the more spirit liquid he would obtain. At the peak of the 1st level mountain of the 2nd level mountain, Lin Yi encountered a peak 6th level of the manifestation stage powerhouse. Since he already knew the technique of the 9th level mountain, Lin Yi directly used the powerful 10th level destruction blade to kill the peak 6th level of the manifestation stage youth. To him, there was not much difference between the 5th and 6th level of the manifestation stage. He understood that every time he challenged a mountain, the opponents he encountered would be 1 level higher than him. On the 2nd peak of the 2nd level mountain, Lin Yi encountered 2 peak 6th level of the manifestation stage youths. Just like before, 32 blade lights killed them. 2nd level mountain, 3rd peak, pass. 2nd level mountain, 4th peak, pass. 2nd level mountain, 5th peak, pass. 2nd level mountain, 6th peak, pass. 2nd level mountain, 9th peak, peak. Lin Yi was surrounded by 9 youths at the peak of the 6th level of the manifestation stage. Their terrifying and domineering aura constantly crushed this space, causing the space to constantly tremble as if it was about to shatter. What shocked him was that the 8th peak and the 9th peak were completely different. Although there was only an additional peak 6th level of the manifestation stage, it did not make much of a difference to him. However, These 9-peak 6th-level manifestation realm martial artists had formed a miraculous formation, and the power they exerted was absolutely not as simple as 1 plus 1 equals 2. He'd rather encounter a few dozen peak 6th-level manifestation realm martial artists than 9 peak 6th-level manifestation realm martial artists that had formed a formation. Rumble, rumble, they did not give him the slightest chance to be shocked or catch his breath. 9 young men, at the peak of the 6th level of the manifestation stage, launched terrifying attacks towards Lin Yi. Every attack definitely reached the 9th level of the manifestation stage. Kill! Lin Yi was shocked and excited at the same time. Although he was already injured, he did not care at all. His figure flashed as he used the Celestial Emperor Fist and Skyflame's Sacred Saber at the same time. 2 overbearing attacks were launched. The peak of the second transformation of the 9 transformations of the Divine Dragon had an extremely terrifying physique. For a time, the battle on the mountain peak was fierce. He's indeed monstrous. He actually reached the 9th peak of the 2nd level mountain in his first attempt. He should have stopped at the 9th peak of the 2nd level mountain. As a Yin-Yang realm powerhouse and the guardian of the 9th level mountain, although Zhao Tianlong could not see Lin Yi's battle, he knew where Lin Yi had reached. Every time Lin Yi passed a peak, Zhao Tianlong's heart would tremble. In his opinion, Lin Yi's limit was the 5th or 6th peak. However, he did not expect Lin Yi to reach the 9th peak of the 2nd level mountain. He was definitely a super monstrous genius in the Heavenly Sea sect. However, he knew that this was Lin Yi's first attempt at the 9th level mountain. He did not understand the 9th level mountain, so he would definitely not be able to pass the 9th peak of the 2nd level mountain. Lin Yi, 2nd level mountain. 9th peak pass. Just when Zhao Tianlong thought that Lin Yi was about to fail, a light the size of a disc appeared in front of him. The light screen showed the information that Lin Yi had passed the 9th peak, and there was also a mechanical notification. He passed. Zhao Tianlong's heart could not help but tremble. He could not believe his eyes and ears. However, the information on the light screen and his yin-yang realm hearing told him that there was no mistake. This monstrous young man named Lin Yi had successfully passed the 9th peak of the 2nd level mountain. Monstrous, a true monstrous genius. This is the first person to pass the 9th peak of the 2nd level mountain before joining the Heavenly Sea sect in 1,000 years. After recovering from his shock, Zhao Tianlong muttered to himself. At the peak of the 9th peak of the 2nd level mountain, Lin Yi's entire body was covered in wounds, as if he had crawled out from hell. One of his arms was almost chopped off, and there were a few streaks of blood on his face. His clothes were tattered beyond recognition. Since coming to this world, this was definitely the most pathetic he had ever been. I've finally passed. Lin Yi's face was pale, but there was a trace of a smile at the corner of his mouth. Although the price he paid was huge, he still managed to break through the formation attack and kill all the peak 6th level manifestation stages. He passed the 9th peak of the 2nd level manifestation stage. Congratulations on passing the 9th peak of the 2nd level mountain. This is your reward. A magical light appeared and a mechanical voice sounded. This was the second time he had seen and heard it. He was already familiar with it. He even looked forward to hearing this sound and liked seeing this light. Beep, beep. Drops of spirit liquid emitted dense spirit energy. They shone with a dazzling luster and slowly dripped down. Lin Yi paused for a moment. With a thought, a gourd appeared in his hand, and all the spirit liquid entered the gourd. 1 drop, 2 drops, 10 drops, 20 drops. The spirit liquid kept dripping, which made Lin Yi incomparably surprised. It was as if the spiritual liquid would never stop dripping. 99 drops. It finally stopped. This time, he obtained a total of 99 drops of spirit liquid. It was 11 times more than what he obtained from the 9th peak of the 1st level mountain. It surprised and delighted him. Of course, the more cultivation resources he had, the better. He would not reject any. Do you want to continue? The mechanical voice in the magical light sounded again. It was emotionless but not cold. Let's give it a try. Lin Yi did not hesitate. In a flash, he dashed towards the first peak of the 3rd level mountain. The 3rd level mountain was several times more terrifying than the 2nd level mountain in terms of pressure and soul attack. In other words, the two were on a completely different level. Lin Ye's expression turned solemn, and every step he took was extremely steady. The same time, 1 hour. Lin Ye arrived at the first peak of the first level mountain. As soon as he appeared, a young expert at the peak of the 7th level of the manifestation realm appeared in the air. As expected, he thought to himself, from the experience of the first level mountain and the experience of the first peak of the 3rd level mountain, he already knew the cultivation level of the first peak of the 3rd level mountain before coming to the 3rd level mountain. It was naturally much easier to deal with a peak of the 7th level of the manifestation realm than 9 peak of the 6th level of the manifestation realm. Whoosh, the sky flame sacred saber appeared in his hand, and he immediately slashed out. 32 rays of saber light slashed through the air and fiercely bombarded the young expert. Rumble, the young expert at the peak of the 7th level of the manifestation realm, also slashed out with a saber. The 2 rays of saber light collided with an explosive sound, and the air trembled. Rumble, rumble, Lin Yi and the young expert saber light slashed out continuously, but they could not do anything to each other. For a moment, the two of them were competing with their cultivation level to see who had more true origin. The air trembled in front of the two of them, and the air was constantly distorted. It's over. Heavenly Emperor Fist, 2nd level. A destructive fist light distorted the air and fiercely bombarded the young expert's body. The saber light disappeared, and the 1st level mountain was silent. Chapter 64. On this day, Zhao Tianlong had been paying attention to the 9th mountain. He was completely in shock. He never expected that the young man not only passed the 9th peak of the 2nd mountain, but also entered the 3rd mountain. Now, he had even reached the 9th peak of the 3rd mountain. Reaching the 3rd mountain was nothing in the Tianhai sect. Half of the Tianhai sect's members could reach the 3rd mountain. However, it was Lin Ye's first time reaching the 9th mountain. There were very few who reached the 2nd mountain on their first try, let alone the 3rd mountain. This was definitely the first time the Tianhai sect had appeared since the ancient times. The 9th peak of the 3rd mountain. I'm finally here. Lin Yi took a deep breath, his face pale. In just one day, he had gone from the 1st level of the mountain to the 3rd level of the 9th level of the mountain. Although his injuries and true essence would recover to their peak after each level, his mind would be extremely tired and unable to recover. He was surrounded by 9 young powerhouses as soon as he arrived. When he was at the 1st mountain, he would only be stopped if he wanted to move forward. Now, as long as he reached the peak, the powerhouses would appear. 9 young men at the peak of the 7th level of the manifestation realm formed a magical formation. Their terrifying aura and pressure crushed the space, almost pressing Lin Yi to the ground. Although there was only one more than the 8 and 9. However, the 9 powerhouses in the formation were countless times stronger than the 8 powerhouses. When he was at the 8th peak, Lin Yi had already used all his techniques, but he still suffered many injuries. Now that he was facing enemies countless times stronger than him, Lin Ye's face revealed a hint of madness. Wings of space. Lin Ye's figure flashed, and his entire body floated in the air. He knew that he had to use the wings of space if he wanted to escape from a formation of powerhouses. He had been forced to the limit by not using the wings of space previously. When the 9 young powerhouses saw that Lin Yi could fly in the air, they could not help but exclaim in surprise. In an instant, the 9 young men were on the ground, and Lin Yi was in the air. Lin Yi's advantage was immediately displayed. Tenfold Destruction Blade. The 6th level. With a shout, the Skyflame Sacred Saber appeared in his hand. With a casual wave, he executed the 6th layer of the 10-layered Annihilation Saber. Immediately, 32 saber lights covered the sky as they bombarded down. Since he was in the air, his attacks on the ground were unbridled, and his might was even more overwhelming. Joint attack. When the 9 young experts saw Lin Ye's attack, they also used their combined power. An incomparably domineering attack met the saber light. Rumble, rumble, at the peak of the 9th peak of the 3rd level mountain, a terrifying battle was taking place. 1 was in the air, and 9 were on the ground. Endless domineering attacks continuously tore and distorted the space around them. Fortunately, The ninth layer mountain had a mysterious power, and martial artists were unable to move it. If it were a normal mountain with such a terrifying power, the mountain would have been razed to the ground. Blade Light, Fist Aura, Aurora. The 9 young experts fell one after another. In a short moment, the 9 young experts at the peak of the 7th level of the manifestation stage vanished into thin air. Linya's figure flashed and landed on the ground. Blood kept flowing out from the corner of his mouth. His body was covered in wounds, as if he had crawled out from hell. In this battle, he executed the wings of space to deal with experts who could not fly. Although he had the absolute advantage, he was still heavily injured. Congratulations on passing the 9th peak of the 3rd level mountain. This is your reward. The mysterious light appeared, and the mechanical voice was still there. Seeing the light and hearing the voice, Lin Yu was naturally happy because this was the reward of his hard work. He received 9 drops of spirit liquid in the 1st mountain. He received 99 drops of spirit liquid in the 2nd mountain. He wondered how many rewards there were in the 3rd mountain. This was what he was curious about. Whoosh, 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 the anticipated spirit liquid did not appear. Instead, gourds appeared one after another. The jade-like gourds seemed to have been plucked from a gourd vine. Before Lin Yi could react, 9 gourds floated in front of him. He reached out to take the gourds and open the lid. He found that it was full of pure spirit liquid, and the density of the spirit liquid was even denser than before. The reward this time was much more than before, and the quality was also better. With a move of his divine telekinesis, he put away the 9 gourds and separated them from the previous ones. Do you want to continue? Within the mysterious light, the mechanical voice sounded again. Let's give it a try. Lin Yi opened his mouth and dashed towards the 4th level mountain. As far as he was concerned, a formation formed by 9 peak 7th level manifestation stage experts was countless times stronger than a peak 8th level manifestation stage expert. Since he'd already killed 9 peak 7th level manifestation stage experts, he naturally didn't care about an 8th level manifestation stage expert. However, he was too wrong. Poochie, just as he stepped onto the 1st peak of the 4th mountain, Lin Yu was crushed by a terrifying pressure, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. If he did not have a divine telekinesis of the 34th rank, his soul would also be heavily injured. So terrifying. Lin Yi thought to himself, and his expression became ugly. He had estimated wrongly, ridiculously wrongly. The pressure and soul attack of the 4th mountain were 10 times stronger than the 3rd mountain. Divine Dragon, 9 transformations. 3,000 Heaven's Will. Lin Yi felt the terrifying pressure and soul attack. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and activated the Divine Dragon, 9 transformations, and the 3,000 Heaven's Will. His powerful physique resisted the pressure, and his divine telekinesis of the 34th rank blocked the soul attack. He took a step forward, withstanding the destructive pressure, and dashed towards the 1st peak of the 4th mountain. In this kind of place, the longer one stayed, the greater the pressure one had to endure. Lin Yi, who was dashing, realized that the soul attack was getting stronger. What shocked him even more was that his divine telekinesis had been greatly tempered, and his cultivation speed was faster than usual. Although he was under great pressure, he was excited to improve his divine telekinesis. 2 hours later, Lin Yi arrived at the 1st peak of the 4th mountain. When he arrived at the peak, the terrifying pressure and soul attack disappeared. His divine telekinesis had actually reached the peak of the 34th rank, and was only 1 step away from the 35th rank. This was something he did not expect. This was several times faster than his cultivation. At the same time, he realized that the Divine Dragon 9 transformations could also be tempered more here. Defeat me and you'll pass. A voice rang out. Lin Yi was already used to it, so he was not surprised at all. He looked at the young expert who had suddenly appeared. The young expert was at the peak of the 8th level of the Wanxiang realm. Defeat you. As easy as pie. Lin Yi had a smile on his face. He stretched out his hand, and the Skyflame's sacred blade appeared in his hand. He executed the 10-fold destruction blade and slashed out. 32 blade rays covered the sky as they crushed toward the young expert. The space shattered in front of the blade rays. Arrogant. the young expert said coldly when he saw Lin Ye's arrogance. He unleashed his cultivation at the peak of the 8th level of the Wanxiang realm and executed a heaven-rank martial skill. Crash! The young expert's attack and Lin Ye's blade rays collided, and the air distorted. Everything calmed down, and the young expert revealed a disdainful smile. However, that disdain quickly turned into shock. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and his vitality was constantly flowing away. A trace of blood appeared on his neck. A ray of light passed through his neck and directly severed it. He never thought that Lin Ye's blade rays were just a prelude or a cover. The real terror was that tiny ray of light. That ray of light was the real killer move. Let's see if the 4th mountain can help my divine thought break through. Lin Ye muttered to himself. Originally, he did not want to challenge the 9th mountain. However, when he discovered that the 4th mountain could temper his divine thought and divine Dragon 9 transformations, he changed his original plan. Moreover, he wanted to know what rewards there were on the 4th mountain. How many rewards were there? His figure flashed, and he flew toward the 2nd peak of the 4th mountain. In one day, Lin Ye arrived at the 6th peak of the 4th mountain. This was already his limit. Even if he used the wings of space, he would still be severely injured. He was sure that he could only reach the 7th peak if he used the wings of space. After all, the 4th mountain was filled with experts at the peak of the 8th level of the Wanxiang realm. He was not afraid of one alone, but if there were too many of them, he would be helpless. More importantly, his divine thought had broken through and successfully reached the 35th level. The challenge of the 9th mountain is over. Lin Ye opened his mouth and said. As soon as his voice fell, a magical ray of light appeared. Congratulations on reaching the peak of the 6th peak of the 4th mountain. This is your reward. A voice sounded from the light. Lin Ye was already familiar with this voice. This time, Lin Ye did not see the spiritual liquid or the gourd. Instead, a mysterious aura floated out from the light like smoke. However, this aura caused the space to fluctuate slightly. Lin Ye smelled this aura, and his injuries and spirit instantly recovered. Noticing this situation, his expression could not help but change. He did not expect this smoke-like aura to be so magical. It was simply unimaginable. This is Saint Qi. In the light, a mechanical voice sounded to remind Lin Ye, as if it had seen through Lin Ye. Saint Qi, the essence of a saint. Hearing this voice, Lin Ye's expression changed. Although he had never seen Saint Qi before, he had read about it in ancient books. Saint Qi was the essence of a saint. A saint was a sage that surpassed martial arts. The essence of a saint was extremely magical. It was definitely the most valuable treasure for martial artists to cultivate. Without any hesitation, he quickly took out the jade bottle and stored this wisp of Saint Qi. As he stored this wisp of Saint Qi, a second wisp of Saint Qi appeared. In a moment, 6 wisps of Saint Qi were stored by Lin Ye. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Looking at the 7th peak of the 4th mountain, Lin Ye turned and ran down the 9th mountain. Every step up the mountain was extremely difficult, but there was no obstruction when he went down the mountain. Even the pressure and soul attack had disappeared. In a moment, Lin Ye had already reached the peak of the 9th peak of the 1st mountain. At the peak of the mountain, Lin Ye saw Zhao Tianlong. When Zhao Tianlong saw Lin Ye coming down, the shock on his face disappeared. He could not help but size up Lin Ye again. He still could not believe that this young man was so monstrous. The 6th peak of the 4th mountain. Even as a Yin-Yang realm expert, he could only reach the 4th peak of the 3rd mountain. How was it? Zhao Tianlong looked at Lin Ye and asked. The 4th mountain is indeed terrifying. Lin Ye answered. Chapter 65. You are the 128th person to reach the 6th peak of the 4th mountain. In the history of the Tianhai sect, Zhao Tianlong looked at Lin Ye and said. The first sentence shocked Lin Ye. The 128th person to reach the 6th peak of the 4th mountain meant that there were only 127 people before him. He could not believe it. However, when he heard the words, in the history of the Tianhai sect, he was not shocked but puzzled. The Tianhai sect was the ruler of the Tianhai realm. In the history of the Tianhai sect, there were countless super experts, geniuses, and demons. How could so few people reach the sixth peak of the fourth mountain? If he tried his best, he should be able to reach the seventh peak of the fourth mountain, or even higher. Senior, you didn't reach the sixth peak of the fourth mountain? Lin Yi asked a question that almost made Zhao Tianlong break down. This caused Zhao Tianlong to be too ashamed to show his face. He wished he could find a hole to hide in. The expression on his face changed. No, I was at the fourth peak of the third mountain. So far, 203 people from the Tianhai sect have reached the fourth mountain. Zhao Tianlong wished he could give Lin Yi a good beating. However, since Lin Yi asked him, as a senior, he could not hide it. Moreover, this was not a secret. He would know if he asked around. Why? In his heart, Lin Yi could already feel Zhao Tianlong's awkwardness. After all, as a yin-yang realm senior, he could not compare to him, who was in the manifestation realm. However, he was curious. If he could reach the sixth peak of the fourth mountain, why was the yin-yang realm senior only at the third mountain? Everyone who challenged the ninth mountain. The opponents they met were the same realm, and were all at the peak of the realm. When a manifestation realm cultivator challenged the ninth mountain, their opponents were in the manifestation realm. When a yin-yang realm cultivator challenged the ninth mountain, their opponents were in the yin-yang realm. Zhao Tianlong had to explain. Firstly, it was to clear Lin Yi's doubts. Secondly, it was to save his face. Senior, has anyone reached the peak of the ninth mountain? Lin Yi looked like he was asking for a beating. Zhao Tianlong really wanted to find a secluded place and beat this detestable youth up. Otherwise, he would not be able to vent his anger. Why? Were all demons so detestable? No. The highest is the eighth peak of the sixth mountain. Take out your ID chip and go through the formalities for you. After Zhao Tianlong finished speaking, he quickly changed the topic. He really didn't want to linger on this topic. Otherwise, he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't go berserk and beat up Lin Yi. Of course, he didn't think that he would have many chances to beat up Lin Yi. Thank you, Senior. Lin Yi looked at Zhao Tianlong, his eyes filled with confusion and curiosity. However, he did not ask Zhao Tianlong about it. This was because he had noticed the impatience in Zhao Tianlong's tone, and that he was deliberately changing the topic. With a thought, Liao took out his identity chip. Take it. Now, you are a member of the Heavenly Sea Sect. You are qualified to enjoy the resources of the Heavenly Sea Sect, and you are obligated to protect the Heavenly Sea Sect. Some of the basic rules and precautions of the Heavenly Sea Sect are in your identity chip. Go. Zhao Tianlong took Lin Yi's identity chip. Then he took out a fist-sized crystal ball from his storage bag. The crystal ball emitted a mysterious light, and the light connected with the chip. In a few seconds, Zhao Tianlong passed Lin Yi's identity chip to Lin Yi. Thank you, Senior. Lin Yi took the identity chip and thanked Zhao Tianlong. His spiritual sense scanned the identity chip. Name, Lin Yi. Sect, Heavenly Sea Sect. Position, Ordinary Disciple. In the identity chip, there was an additional simple information. This information was so simple that it made Lin Yi speechless. What made him puzzled was that he was actually just an ordinary disciple. Ordinary disciples were definitely the lowest in the Heavenly Sea Sect. In the beginning, Zhong Xuqing had said that if one were to pass the ninth mountain and enter the Heavenly Sea Sect, they would definitely be a genius among geniuses, and their status and position in the Heavenly Sea Sect would be very high. However, Zhong Xuqing's words and his current identity made him feel that there was something wrong. In any case, he had reached the sixth peak of the fourth mountain. Senior had said that there were only 127 people before him, so he should be considered a genius. Then why was he just an ordinary disciple? Ordinary disciple. Then I'll just be an ordinary disciple, Lin Yi secretly said in his heart. He bowed towards Zhao Tianlong and walked down the 9-layer mountain. Despicable brat. You can continue to torment yourself in the Heavenly Sea Sect. Zhao Tianlong looked at Lin Yi's disappearing back and revealed a smug smile as he muttered to himself. Lin Yi naturally did not know that his identity as an ordinary disciple was deliberately made up by Zhao Tianlong. The Heavenly Sea Sect was the ruler of the entire Heavenly Sea realm. It was also the holy land that all the experts and geniuses of the heavenly sea realm yearned for. The warriors of the heavenly sea realm always wanted to join the heavenly sea sect and become a member of the heavenly sea sect. However, it was not that easy to become a member of the heavenly sea sect. Those who could enter the heavenly sea sect were either super experts or super geniuses. There were 3 ways to enter the heavenly sea sect. The first way was that the heavenly sea sect would recruit disciples once every 10 years. Geniuses with great talent would have a chance to enter the heavenly sea sect. The second way was to challenge the 9th peak of the first mountain and become a member of the heavenly sea sect. The third way was to challenge the sword pavilion and obtain the recognition of the sword pavilion to become a member of the heavenly sea sect. The heavenly sea sect would recruit disciples once every 10 years, and there would be about 1,000 spots each time. In these 10 years, to become a member of the heavenly sea sect, one would have to challenge the sword pavilion and the 9th mountain. However, in these 10 years, only a dozen people entered the heavenly sea sect. One could imagine how difficult it was to challenge the 9th mountain and the sword pavilion. What was surprising was that in these few days, there were 2 geniuses who managed to challenge the 9th mountain on their first try. 2 geniuses. One of them was an extremely beautiful girl with a face that could cause the downfall of nations. She had an otherworldly temperament and was like a goddess who didn't eat the food of mortals. She was cold and arrogant and kept people 1,000 miles away. More importantly, this girl was not only beautiful, but also talented. She managed to challenge the 9th mountain to become a member of the heavenly sea sect. Her name was Luo Bingwa. As for the other genius, no one knew his name or gender. No one knew anything about him. Luo Bingwa's appearance instantly made her the target of countless geniuses and experts in the heavenly sea sect. She was even regarded as one of the 4 goddesses of the heavenly sea sect. Countless experts and geniuses wanted to win Luo Bingwa's favor, but they were all rejected. The heavenly sea sect recruits disciples once every 10 years. There's still half a year left. Looks like we'll have to wait for half a year. The heavenly sea sect was divided into the outer sect and the inner sect. The outer sect was where the ordinary disciples resided and cultivated. The inner sect was where the geniuses and experts resided. In one of the pavilions in the outer sect, a young man in green finished his cultivation and spoke. In front of the tea table, not far from him, a beautiful young girl was staring at him. The young girl was beautiful, but she was as cold as ice. She was like an iceberg that wouldn't melt for 10,000 years, keeping people 1,000 miles away. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was an otherworldly goddess. This young man and girl were naturally Lin Yi and Luo Bingwa. They were also the geniuses who had challenged the 9th mountain to join the heavenly sea sect. They naturally did not expect that these 2 super geniuses not only knew each other, but were also together. The geniuses of the Yunshui kingdom were teleported out. They're most likely in the heavenly sea city. The heavenly sea sect will be recruiting disciples in half a year. This is a once-in-a-decade opportunity. They won't miss it, Luo Bingwa said. Her voice was as cold as ever. But it was sweet and pleasant, like the sound of nature. It turned out that she and Lin Yi were teleported out of the Cloudwater Kingdom. The moment they left the teleportation array, the 2 of them were separated by who knows how many miles. Fortunately, the 2 of them had agreed to meet up in Sky Sea City. When they arrived at the heavenly sea city, it was like a sea of buildings. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack to find Lin Yi. She was smart and thought of the heavenly sea sect. Given Lin Yi's character, he would probably go there. Thinking of this, she came to the heavenly sea sect and learned that someone had challenged the 9th mountain to become a member of the heavenly sea sect. According to the description, she was sure that this young man was Lin Yi. When she saw Lin Yi enter the heavenly sea sect, she also challenged the 9th mountain to become a genius disciple of the heavenly sea sect. Moreover, she challenged the 9th mountain with the cultivation of the heaven star border realm. What puzzled her was that she could become an inner disciple of the heavenly sea sect with her talent. Why was Lin Yi only an ordinary disciple and was even kept in the outer sect? However, She didn't think too much about it, and thought that Lin Yi did it on purpose. Outer sect disciples usually didn't go to the inner sect easily. Inner sect disciples, on the other hand, could enter and leave the outer sect easily. Luo Bingwei came to the outer sect to find Lin Yi. The Heavenly Sea sect has something I need. We might have to stay in the Heavenly Sea realm for a while. Lin Yi didn't hide anything and told her what he sensed in the Heavenly Sea city. He entered the Heavenly Sea sect because of the heart of the sword. Now that he had become a member of the Heavenly Sea sect, he had a chance to get close to the heart of the sword. However, he didn't know how long it would take. Anyway, he could cultivate in the Heavenly Sea sect and didn't need to leave the Heavenly Sea realm in a hurry. He said it should be in the Sword Pavilion. In the Heavenly Sea sect, the treatment of inner and outer sect disciples isn't much different. The inner sect is slightly better, but they have more resources. Luo Bingwei looked at Lin Yi and said, she knew that Lin Yi had gained a lot in the Yunshui Kingdom's mystic realm and didn't lack cultivation resources for the time being. The treatment and resources that the Heavenly Sea sect gave to the inner sect disciples were nothing to Lin Yi. In Lin Yi's opinion, there wasn't much difference between the inner and outer sections. Both the inner and outer sect disciples were qualified to go to the Sword Pavilion and the Ninth Mountain. Bingwei, which mountain are you on? Lin Yi looked at Luo Bingwei and asked. Although he knew that Luo Bingwei had an emperor body, he didn't know about Luo Bingwei's achievements on the Ninth Mountain. He couldn't help but feel curious. The second mountain, 8th peak. Luo Bingwei didn't hesitate and answered. Her answer surprised Lin Yi. He didn't expect Luo Bingwei to be so monstrous. She had an emperor body and reached the second mountain, 8th peak, on her first attempt at the 9th mountain. This achievement was indeed shocking. What about you? Luo Bingwei asked when she saw that Lin Yi didn't say anything. Chapter 66. 4th Mountain, 6th Peak. Lin Yi snapped out of his thoughts and answered Luo Bingwei. 4th Mountain, 6th Peak. Hearing Lin Yi's answer, Luo Bingwei's expressionless face was filled with shock. She knew how terrifying the 9th peak was, but she never expected Lin Yi to reach the 4th mountain, 6th peak. Other than Zhao Tianlong, no one else knew about Lin Yi's results on the 9th peak. This was the first time she heard that Lin Yi had reached the 4th mountain, and Lin Yi had said it himself. Such heaven-defying results could not be achieved with talent and constitution alone. Yes, that Yinyang Realm senior tricked me. Thinking of Zhao Tianlong, Lin Yi could not help but say this. His achievements were clearly higher than Luo Bingwei's, but he was regarded as an ordinary outer sect disciple. Was this not intentional? He could not understand. It was his first time in Tianhai City, and he did not know many people. Moreover, this Yinyang Realm senior did not seem like an evil person, but the outcome was beyond his expectations. I also feel suspicious. Lin Yi is in the Tianhai sect. He can't be too low-key. Luo Bingwei looked at Lin Yi seriously. The youth in front of her was almost 17 years old and was already an adult. If Lin Yi had not broken the agreement, this youth in front of her would have been her fiancé. However, it was no longer the case. However, the relationship between the two was unclear. Looking carefully at this youth who belonged to her, he was delicate and quiet, like a scholar from an aristocratic family. He exuded a scholarly aura and could not be associated with an expert at all. Although he was not handsome nor elegant, he was very pleasing to the eye. Her gentle and quiet aura was even more mysterious. His eyes were like bright stars in the night sky, wise and deep. This was the first time she looked at Lin Yi seriously, and the first time she saw Lin Yi clearly. I can't be low-key. Am I low-key? Lin Yi was startled when he heard Luo Bingwei's words. It was really unexpected for Luo Bingwei to say such words. He didn't think that he was keeping a low profile. He just didn't want to be too conspicuous. There was no need to be too conspicuous. Being too conspicuous wouldn't do him any good. It would only bring him endless trouble. I don't know. You probably haven't understood the rules of the Heavenly Sea sect yet. In the Heavenly Sea sect, resources are only given to true geniuses. I'll head back first. After Luo Bingyue finished speaking, she got up and walked out of the pavilion, leaving behind a faint fragrance. She was in a hurry to go back and cultivate. This was because the entire Heavenly Sea sect was basically at the manifestation realm. Only a few were at the Heaven Star border realm. No matter how monstrous one's talent was, without the support of their cultivation realm, their talent was useless, especially when he saw Lin Yi. When she first met Lin Yi, she was at the Khanate realm, and Lin Yi didn't have any cultivation. In less than 2 years, Lin Yi was now at the manifestation realm and could fight with the Yin-Yang realm expert. However, she was still at the Heaven Star border realm. As a proud genius, she naturally wouldn't give up so easily. The rules of the Heavenly Sea sect. Looks like I have to take a look. Lin Yi watched Luo Bingyue's beautiful back disappear, and a smile appeared on his face. Luo Bingyue was right. He indeed didn't look at the rules of the Heavenly Sea sect. After entering the Heavenly Sea sect, he had been cultivating and comprehending. He didn't pay attention to the rules of the Heavenly Sea sect. Now that Luo Bingyue said this, it reminded him. With a thought, his divine thought entered the identity crystal. Instantly, information about the Heavenly Sea sect flooded into his mind. This information was the most basic information about the Heavenly Sea sect, including some rules and precautions of the Heavenly Sea sect. Lin Yi glanced at it and memorized all the information. Secret Realm, Resources, Missions, Demon Sect, Demon Sect. Countless information appeared in Lin Yi's mind. After filtering through it, what he remembered most clearly were the Secret Realm, Missions, and Resources. There were also the Demon Sect and the Demon Sect. These two Demon Sect were the mortal enemies of the Heavenly Sea sect. They were also the mortal enemies of the entire Heavenly Sea realm. The Heavenly Sea sect represented the righteous forces of the Heavenly Sea realm. The Demon Sect and the Demon Sect were the Demon Sect and represented the Demon Sect. These two major forces were constantly at war. As long as the two sides met, it would be a life and death situation. The Heavenly Sea sect was in Heavenly Sea City and ruled over the humans of the Heavenly Sea realm. The Demon Sect was in the sea outside Heavenly Sea City and was also part of the Heavenly Sea realm. The Demon Sect was the most mysterious and the most vicious. It was in the territory of the Demon Domain, 1,000,000 miles away from Heavenly Sea City. It was a paradise for Demon Sect martial artists. The Heavenly Sea realm isn't dominated by the humans. From the looks of it, the true rulers of the Heavenly Sea realm aren't the humans, but the Demon Sect and the Demon Sect. Lin Yi muttered to himself. When he was in the Yinshui kingdom, no one mentioned these secrets, so he didn't know anything. However, he also understood that these matters were only known to the people of Heavenly Sea City. The people of the Yinshui kingdom probably didn't have the qualifications to know. Time passed by, second by second. After 4 hours, Lin Yi understood the Heavenly Sea sect. He took note of some things to take note of so that he wouldn't make a principled mistake in the future. The Heavenly Sea sect was divided into the inner sect and outer sect. The outer sect was made up of manifestation realm experts. The inner sect was made up of Yin-Yang realm experts, as well as some super geniuses and demons. For ordinary experts in the outer sect, if they wanted to enter the inner sect, they either had to become a Yin-Yang realm expert or challenge an inner sect genius. The winner would enter the inner sect or contribute to the Heavenly Sea sect. To make a contribution was to complete a mission, hunting demons from the Demon Sect and demons from the Demon Sect. The greater the contribution, the higher the chance of entering the inner sect. Lin Yi naturally knew about these matters. However, he didn't plan on hunting demons and demons. Instead, he planned on increasing his cultivation strength. He didn't lack resources for the time being, he only lacked time. Also, his goal in coming to the Heavenly Sea sect was to meet up with Luo Bingyue and search for geniuses from the Yinshui kingdom. Also, there was the heart of the sword. He didn't consider anything else for the time being. Cultivation. It was still cultivation. After coming to Heavenly Sea City, he realized that the manifestation realm was nothing. Only by reaching the Yin-Yang realm could he be considered an expert. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. In these 3 months, Lin Yi had been cultivating. Luo Bingwe also spent most of her time cultivating. During this period, she came to Lin Ye's place twice. On this day, Lin Yi was cultivating when the sound of light footsteps reached his ears. When he was cultivating, he also extended his divine telekinesis and monitored everything within a 100-meter radius in his mind. This was the most basic subconscious of a divine spiritual sorcerer. In his divine telekinesis, Luo Bingyue's beautiful figure appeared. Lin Yi. Luo Bingyue's sweet and crisp voice sounded. She was as cold as an iceberg that hadn't melted in 10,000 years. She was as beautiful as a goddess who didn't eat the food of mortals. Her temperament was 1,000 miles away, making people unable to have obscene thoughts. As the voice sounded, the beautiful figure walked towards Lin Ye's courtyard with small steps. She was like a goddess who had descended to the mortal world. Yes, what's the matter? Lin Yi walked out of his room and appeared in front of Luo Bingwe. Although he was an ordinary outer sect disciple, he had his own courtyard. When he spoke, there was a smile on his face. He had known Luo Bingwe for 2 years. Although Luo Bingwe was cold and arrogant, he had become very casual with her. In other words, the two of them could be considered friends. You can't come because you don't have anything to do? When Luo Bingwe heard Lin Ye's words, she knew that he said it deliberately, but she couldn't help but feel unhappy. Her small temper made her pout, and she turned around to walk outside. She was also surprised and puzzled by her actions. She was cold and arrogant, known as the Ice Mountain Goddess. She never showed any emotion to outsiders. Who would have thought that she would pout in front of Lin Yi? This was not her character. Only her sister, Luo Xing, would do such a thing. Lin Yi naturally saw Luo Bingyue pout and couldn't help but feel shocked. But he didn't think too much about it. He took a step forward and appeared behind Luo Bingwe. He reached out and grabbed Luo Bingyue's jade-like hand and pulled Luo Bingyue over. When he touched her hand, he felt that her jade-like hand was soft and boneless. It was extremely smooth and tender. Of course you can come. Lin Yi didn't allow her to explain. He pulled Luo Bingwe back to the small pavilion in the courtyard. Needless to say, the treatment and conditions of the Heavenly Sea sect were really good. Even ordinary outer sect disciples had their own courtyards. The environment for cultivation was excellent. Do you have time? Luo Bingwe was pulled by Lin Yi. Her small face couldn't help but blush. Her heartbeat sped up, thumping nonstop. She began to doubt herself. Why didn't she reject Lin Yi? Instead, she felt a trace of indescribable joy. Yes, what's the matter? Lin Yi looked at Luo Bingwe. He didn't know what Luo Bingwe wanted. Normally, with Luo Bingyue's personality, she wouldn't look for him easily. There's a mystic realm. A few intersect disciples invited me to go with them. If you have time, come with me. Luo Bingwe said. Although she was in the Heaven Star border realm, she was a genius with an emperor physique. She became an intersect disciple after passing the 9th mountain. More importantly, she was extremely beautiful. Countless prodigies saw her as a goddess. A woman could have no cultivation, but she couldn't have no looks. A beautiful woman, even if her cultivation was slightly lower, would have countless prodigies chasing after her. A few manifestation realm super experts invited her to go to the mystic realm. Normally, she wouldn't go to these mystic realms. However, this mystic realm wasn't simple. It would be a pity to miss it. However, safety was her biggest problem. If she encountered danger, her fellow disciples wouldn't care about her. They might even threaten her. She thought of Lin Yi. If Lin Yi went with her, her safety wouldn't be a problem. What mystic realm? Lin Yi couldn't help but be stunned. They didn't lack resources. At least for the time being, they didn't need to go to the mystic realm. It's said that there's Saint Chi in the mystic realm. This mystic realm is one of the richest mystic realms in the Heavenly Sea sect. Luo Bingyue told Lin Yi the information she received. Chapter 67. When is it? Lin Yi agreed. If he let Luo Bingwe go with her fellow disciples in the Heavenly Sea sect, he wouldn't be at ease. Although he was only an ordinary outer sect disciple, he really didn't take those prodigies of the inner sect seriously. Today, Luo Bingwe was overjoyed when she saw Lin Yi agree. She originally planned to go alone with her fellow disciples if Lin Yi was cultivating or if he didn't have time to go. This Mystic Realm adventure was a good opportunity. The main reason was that she realized that the distance between her and Lin Yi was increasing. It was obviously impossible to strengthen herself by cultivating in the Heavenly Sea sect. Then let's go. Lin Yi was stunned. He didn't expect it to be so urgent. Fortunately, he had nothing to do now. Afterward, Luo Bingwe left the Heavenly Sea sect with Lin Yi and headed to the Heavenly Sea City Plaza. Soon, the two of them arrived at the Heavenly Sea City Plaza. Sister Luo, over here. The two of them had just arrived at the Heavenly Sea City Plaza when a voice entered their ears. Lin Yi looked in the direction of the voice and saw a few young men and women looking over. One of the young men waved at Luo Bingwe with a face full of confidence. "It's them," Lin Yi said in a low voice when he saw them. Luo Bingwe nodded and walked towards them with Lin Yi. Lin Yi scanned them with his divine telekinesis and saw through their cultivation. 4 at the 9th level of the manifestation realm, 4 at the 8th level of the manifestation realm, and 3 at the 7th level of the manifestation realm. There were 7 men and 4 women, and all of them were handsome and beautiful. Seeing Luo Bingwe's arrival, the youths had confident smiles on their faces. However, when they saw Lin Yi, they couldn't help but be startled. A trace of coldness flashed through their eyes, but it was mostly disdain. "Sister Luo, who is he?" The young man who greeted Luo Bingwe asked Luo Bingwe as he sized up Lin Yi. His name was Chun Feng, and he was at the peak of the 9th level of the manifestation realm. When he saw Luo Bingwe for the first time, he was stunned. He was amazed by Luo Bingwe. He had already made up his mind to pursue Luo Bingwe. When he discovered that Luo Bingwe was only a heaven starboarder, he was even more delighted. With such a cultivation, with his talent, cultivation, and strength, it was definitely a game. It just so happened that he and his fellow disciples were about to enter the secret territory and wanted to bring Luo Bingwe along. In the secret territory, he would get closer to Luo Bingwe. Who would have thought that Luo Bingwe would bring a youngster over? What was even more hateful was that this youngster was only an ordinary outer sect disciple. Lin Yi, I want to bring him along. Luo Bingwe was a woman of few words, and her voice was very cold. However, her tone was calm. When she spoke, her beautiful eyes looked at the few young men and women. Isn't an outer sect disciple a burden? That's right. Sister Luo, bringing an outer sect disciple will not only not help us, but will also be a burden. If he goes, he will be taking an extra share of the gains. Forget it. He will just be sending himself to his death if he goes. People can be trash, but they can't be ignorant. Sigh. When they heard that Luo Bingwe wanted to bring Lin Yi along, the few young men were instantly stunned. Then, they laughed as though they heard a joke. They looked at Lin Yi as though they were looking at an idiot. Bringing Luo Bingwe along was completely because of Luo Bingwe's looks. Sister Luo, if you bring any inner sect disciple, we will accept it. But you can't bring an outer sect disciple. To be honest, for his own good, don't bring him. He will just be sending himself to his death, and will even be a burden to us. Don't you think so? Chun Feng opened his mouth. His tone was calm. It gave people a feeling that his words were sincere and earnest, as though he was doing it for Lin Yi's sake. Then I won't go either. Luo Bingwe's voice was extremely cold. There was not the slightest trace of emotion in her tone. Although her voice was ice cold, her current voice was completely different from before. That was because she was truly angry now. Of all the things her fellow disciples shouldn't have done, they shouldn't have looked down on Lin Yi. Sister Luo, you're too serious. It's okay to bring him along, but when we encounter danger, don't be a burden to us. When Chun Feng saw Luo Bingwe protecting an outer sect youth like this, he became even angrier. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to be gentlemanly, he really would have torn Lin Yi to pieces to vent the hatred in his heart. As he spoke, he glared fiercely at Lin Yi. He had already started to plan in his heart. When they reached the secret territory, he would find a chance to kill this young man. From start to finish, Lin Yi did not speak. His state of mind was extremely calm, because in his eyes, these so-called Heaven's Pride experts were just a bunch of trash. If it wasn't for Luo Bingyue going to experience the world, he would not want to stay with a bunch of trash. Let's go. A young man named Lu Dong opened his mouth and said. Immediately, the group left Tianhai Square and walked out of Tianhai City. After 2 hours, they finally left Tianhai City. Outside Tianhai City was the endless sea. Then, Lu Dong led everyone onto a large ship and left Tianhai City. The only means of transportation was the ship or flying beasts, but flying beasts were too precious and hard to find, and ordinary people could not own one. Moreover, flying demonic beasts couldn't fly too far in the sea. On the ship, Lin Yi sat cross-legged alone on the side and began to cultivate. As for the others, they were chatting and laughing happily, and they directly ignored Lin Yi. Although he was cultivating, Lin Yi's divine thought had been monitoring the situation of the entire ship in his mind, and every movement here could not escape his eyes. Of course, he also learned from the discussion of Chen Feng and the others that the secret territory was on an island thousands of miles away from Tianhai City. With the speed of the ship, they could reach it in 3 days. At the same time, in the vast sea, a pitch-black warship was gliding rapidly at an extremely fast speed. On the warship, there were millions of phenomenon realm experts. These experts emitted a mysterious evil aura. Young Master has taken a fancy to the thing in that secret territory. So, we must get the thing back at all costs. On the warship, a black-robed old man spoke. His entire body emitted a powerful aura. This subordinate obeys. Young Master Ailey has an order. That treasure must be obtained. Otherwise, you'll never have to return. In the sky above the sea, a huge flying beast spread its wings, which were 50 meters in size. Every time it flapped, the space trembled and the sea surged, its momentum shaking the sky. On the back of the huge beast, there were more than 10 peak phenomenon realm experts emitting powerful auras. The aura of the leader was like that of an ancient beast. In 3 days, the ship approached an island. The island was half a mile in size, and it was bare, like a huge rock protruding out of the sea. Senior Brother Lu, this secret territory is unguarded. Aren't you afraid of the evil path entering? Luo Binghua looked at the bare island and asked. This was also what Lin Yi was curious about. The Heavenly Sea realm seemed to be dominated by the Heavenly Sea sect, but the truly powerful forces were the Fey God cult and the demonic sect. These two evil forces were extremely terrifying. Although the secret territory's entrance was very close to the Heavenly Sea City, it was inevitable that people from the Fey God cult and the Fey God cult would sneak in. Sister Luo, don't worry. This secret territory can only be entered by those below the Yin-Yang realm. Those above the manifestation realm and the Yin-Yang realm will instantly vanish. The Heavenly Sea sect doesn't prohibit people from the Fey God cult and the Fey God cult from entering, and they won't brazenly enter the Heavenly Sea sect's secret territory. Furthermore, this secret territory used to be guarded by experts, but as time passed, the resources inside were almost all looted by the Heavenly Sea sect's disciples, so there's no need to waste manpower guarding this place. Chen Feng revealed a seemingly knowledgeable expression as he explained the situation there to them. The secret territory's entrance was only 10,000 miles away from the Heavenly Sea City. The people from the Fey God cult and the demonic sect wouldn't dare to come here, at least not brazenly. Even if a few disciples from the Fey God cult and the demonic sect sneaked in, it wouldn't affect them much. After hearing Chan Feng's explanation, Luo Bingyue and Lin Yi roughly understood that this secret territory was basically abandoned by the Heavenly Sea sect, and there weren't many resources inside. Let's open this secret territory. Lu Dong glanced at Chen Feng and said. As he spoke, he took out 10 spirit stones. They walked towards an altar on the island. Lu Dong placed the 10 spirit stones on the altar, and the altar was immediately activated, and a magical light burst out from the altar. Let's go. Chen Feng called out to Luo Bingyue, and his figure flashed as he flew towards the altar. The others also quickly flew up, worried that they would miss the teleportation array. Rumble, rumble. The altar let out a loud rumbling sound. More than 10 people had already gone up. Lin Yi reached out and grabbed Luo Bingyue's small hand. Luo Bingyue's delicate body stiffened, as if she had been electrocuted, and a blush appeared on her beautiful and cold face. She wanted to break free, but she didn't. She knew that Lin Yi wasn't being frivolous, but he was worried that the teleportation array would randomly separate them. This teleportation array isn't random. When Qin Feng and the other youth saw Lin Yi holding Luo Bingyue's hand, they looked at Lin Yi coldly, as if they wanted to swallow Lin Yi alive. This was the hand of their goddess, and it wasn't something an ordinary outer sect disciple could hold. Oh, Lin Yi replied with a no. However, he didn't let go of Luo Bingyue's hand. Naturally, he knew the jealousy in the hearts of these intersect prodigies. Oomph, the youths snorted coldly. They had already calculated in their hearts that they would find a chance to kill this trash once they entered the secret territory. As the teleportation array was activated, more than 10 people disappeared in the light. Not long after Lin Yi and the others entered the secret territory, a pitch-black warship quickly glided towards them and finally stopped at the edge of the island. The experts on the warship quickly activated the teleportation array and entered the secret territory. The warship quickly sank. In an instant, the warship disappeared, completely sinking into the sea. Not long after the warship disappeared, a flying demonic beast landed on the island. The expert on the flying demonic beast activated the teleportation array and entered the secret territory. Chapter 68. The spirit chi in the secret realm was dense. Qin Feng was right. This teleportation array wasn't random. Everyone who was teleported in would appear at the same place. Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue were naturally not separated this time. Seeing Luo Bingyue's blushing face, Lin Yi let go of Luo Bingyue's hand without a trace. Everyone, be careful. Lu Dong called out to the group and quickly ran into the distance. He had already received accurate information about this trip to the secret realm. He headed straight for the destination and didn't want to waste time here. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In an instant, a group of more than a dozen people spread out and followed Lu Dong. Apart from Luo Bingyue, who was in the Heaven Star realm, the others were all super experts in the manifestation realm. Moreover, they were in the 8th or 9th stage. Their running speed was extremely fast. Sister Luo, I'll carry you. After a while, Luo Bingyue gradually fell behind. At this rate, Luo Bingyue would be left behind in another 15 minutes, let alone reaching the destination. At this moment, Qin Feng's face was filled with excitement. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Seeing Qin Feng approaching Luo Bingyue, the other young men stopped in their tracks. They didn't want Qin Feng to win the beauty, but Qin Feng had already spoken. They regretted it. Thank you, senior brother Qin. Luo Bingyue saw Qin Feng reaching over and subconsciously took a step back. Immediately after, Luo Bingyue moved closer to Lin Yi and looked at Lin Yi. I won't bother you guys. Lin Yi opened his mouth and said. As he spoke, he reached out and pulled Luo Bingyue's hand. Let go. When Lin Yi pulled Luo Bingyue away, the faces of the youths present were extremely ugly. They wanted nothing more than to swallow Lin Yi alive. What right did Luo Bingyue have to reject them and follow an outer sect trash? The young men shouted at the same time. Why did you let go? Lin Yi said with a faint smile. As he spoke, he looked at Qin Feng and the others as if he was looking at idiots. Sister Luo is someone in outer sect trash like you can touch. If you don't let go, I'll chop off your dog paws. Lu Dong glared fiercely at Lin Yi, releasing a powerful aura. A powerful aura rushed towards Lin Yi. He wanted to use his powerful aura to suppress Lin Yi and make Lin Yi retreat. At the same time, he wanted to let Luo Bingyue know how powerful he was. Scram, Lin Yi said as he looked at Lu Dong. Even a clay figurine would be slightly uncouth. He didn't want to argue with these guys. It wasn't that he was afraid of them, but that he didn't want to argue with trash. He didn't want to ruin his mood. But since these guys had already come to this point, he naturally couldn't tolerate it anymore. Screech, the scene was eerily quiet. Lin Yi's words shocked everyone. They didn't expect that an outer sect trash would dare to speak to Lu Dong in such a manner. Was he crazy? Or is he stupid? You're courting death. Lu Dong was stunned for a moment before he reacted. The expression on his face was incomparably ugly. Being humiliated by an outer sect trash was simply a great humiliation. If Lin Yi was an inner sect elite, he wouldn't be so angry. But Lin Yi was just an ordinary outer sect disciple. To an inner sect elite, he was a complete piece of trash. Along the way, this trash didn't even dare to utter a word. Now, he was telling him to scram. In his anger, he threw a punch at Lin Yi. Within the secret territory, he could kill Lin Yi as he wished. Seeing Lu Dong attack, Chun Feng and the others were gloating. When they looked at Lin Yi, it was as if they were looking at a dead man. After all, Lu Dong was a super elite at the peak of Wanxian Peak Stage 9. Within the inner sect, he was also one of the elite prodigies. Lin Yi was an outer sect trash. In front of Lu Dong, he was a complete piece of trash. If he didn't die, who would? Seeing that Lu Dong's destructive fist was about to drown Lin Yi casually raised his hand and threw a punch at it. From Chun Feng and the other's point of view, Lin Yi was completely stunned. Otherwise, he wouldn't have tried to block it. Boom! However, just when everyone thought that Lin Yi was about to be smashed to death by Lu Dong, the two fists collided with each other. A burst of explosive sound rang out, and the air trembled strangely. The sound of blood spurting rang out. Chun Feng and the others' faces were filled with shock, as if they had seen a ghost. Because Lin Yi didn't move at all and was completely unharmed. As for Lu Dong, his entire body was like a kite with a broken string, swaying and swaying. Fresh blood splattered in the air, drawing out a strange curtain of blood. His appearance was extremely miserable. What? Lu Dong was heavily injured. Was this a joke? At this moment, everyone could see Lin Yi's cultivation level. Peak of the 5th level of the Wanxiang stage. An outer sect disciple at the peak of the 5th level of the Wanxiang stage actually heavily injured Lu Dong, who was at the peak of the 9th level of the Wanxiang stage, with one punch. This was too shocking. This world was too crazy. Thud! Lu Dong's body fiercely fell to the ground 100 meters away. Fresh blood continuously flowed from the corner of his mouth. This scene fiercely shocked Chun Feng and the others. When they looked at Lin Yi, fear arose in their hearts. Was this still the trash they thought of? Lin Yi walked step by step towards Lu Dong. Lu Dong's face revealed a terrified expression when he saw Lin Yi walk over. That punch just now had caused him to be heavily injured. Now that he faced Lin Yi, he didn't have the strength to fight back at all. Do you still want me to let go? Lin Yi walked in front of Lu Dong and said indifferently. On his face was a harmless smile. No. Lu Dong's heart was terrified to the extreme. Others might not know, but that punch just now was meant to take Lin Yi's life. But he lost. He knew in his heart how terrifying Lin Yi's punch was. In front of that punch, he didn't have the slightest intention to resist. He still couldn't figure out how an ordinary outer sect disciple could be so strong. If you weren't from the Tianhai sect, you'd be dead today. You want to touch my Lin Yi's woman? Lin Yi said coldly. As he spoke, he reached out and grabbed Luo Bingyue's slender waist. With a gentle pull, he brought Luo Bingyue into his arms. Luo Bingyue's body stiffened, as if she had been electrocuted. When she heard Lin Yi's words, she was completely stunned. She was indeed Lin Yi's fiancée, but Lin Yi had canceled the engagement. She didn't expect Lin Yi to say that she was his woman. Not only Luo Bingyue, but the others were also stunned. Are you speaking on behalf of Sister Luo? Chun Feng said coldly. He knew that Lin Yi wasn't simple, but he didn't care. Although Lu Dong had been injured by Lin Yi, in his eyes, it was just Lu Dong's carelessness. Otherwise, how could an ordinary outer sect disciple injure Lu Dong in one move? Otherwise, Lin Yi wouldn't be an ordinary outer sect disciple, but an inner sect prodigy. Chun Feng's words made everyone look at Luo Bingyue. They didn't believe that Luo Bingyue was Lin Yi's woman. If that was the case, then it was like a flower stuck in cow dung. Yes, Luo Bingyue was still in a daze. She was stunned by Lin Yi's words. She was happy, but also nervous. Seeing everyone's gaze, Luo Bingyue nodded. From the beginning to the end, she didn't know what she had done, especially Lin Yi's hand, which was still on her slender waist. She had never been in contact with the opposite sex, but now she was almost in Lin Yi's arms. She felt weak all over. Sister Luo, what's so good about him? When Qinfeng saw Luo Bingyue admit it, he almost collapsed. He hated Lin Yi to death in his heart. His murderous intent was getting stronger and stronger. He wanted to kill Lin Yi with one punch. Is he good? It's my business. Luo Bingyue's cold voice sounded. She couldn't do anything about Lin Yi. But to outsiders, she was still the cold goddess who kept people at arm's length. Good, very good. Lin Yi, do you dare to fight with me? Qinfeng showed a fierce expression. In his heart, he wanted to crush Lin Yi. You're not worthy. Lin Yi shook his head and said indifferently. There was a smile on his face, as if he was at ease. Coward die. Qinfeng walked towards Lin Yi step by step. The aura around his body rose rapidly, and the strength of the peak 9th level of the manifestation realm was fully displayed. With him as the center, the space within 100 meters was constantly trembling. The power of the manifestation realm distorted space. When he was 10 meters away from Lin Yi, he waved his hand. In his hand, a long sword slashed out. Suddenly, a terrifying sword light went straight towards Lin Yi. Wherever the sword light passed, the space was pierced. Seeing Chun Feng's sword, the other Tianhai sect prodigies were shocked. They knew that Qinfeng was strong, but they didn't expect him to be so strong. They admitted that they couldn't withstand this sword. Seeing that Lin Yi was about to be killed by this sword, Lin Yi didn't move at all. He looked at Qinfeng indifferently. The Tianhai sect prodigies didn't understand the situation. Just as the sword light was about to fall on Lin Yi raised his hand and punched towards the sword light. This punch was casually thrown, and it was exactly the same as the one he used to attack Lu Dong. Ignorant, the Tianhai sect prodigies cursed in their hearts when they saw Lin Yi's action. Qinfeng and Lu Dong were both at the 9th level of the manifestation realm. But Qinfeng was much stronger than Lu Dong. Crack in everyone's sight. The sword light and the fist light collided, and a cracking sound was heard. Then, the sword light shattered, and the fist light rushed towards Qinfeng at an unstoppable speed. Puqi Qinfeng's chest was hit by the fist light, and a huge hole appeared. Blood spurted out, and he fell to the ground with a loud bang. The peak of the 9th level of the manifestation realm. Dead. He died just like that. Killed in one blow. A peak of the 5th level of the manifestation realm instantly killed a peak of the 9th level of the manifestation realm. The other prodigies of the Heavenly Sea sect had ugly expressions on their faces. When they looked at Lin Yi, their eyes were filled with fear and dread. Even a peak 9th level manifestation realm martial artist had been killed in one blow. They couldn't compare to Lin Yi at all. Why bother? Lin Yi said indifferently with a helpless tone. He didn't want to kill, but he was always provoked. He looked at the other Tianhai sect prodigies. Wherever his gaze passed, they couldn't help but lower their heads, not daring to look at Lin Yi. They all knew that Lin Yi didn't say anything along the way and kept a low profile. Instead, it was Qinfeng and the others who kept provoking and humiliating Lin Yi. Now, they all knew that Lin Yi just didn't want to cause trouble. He wasn't trash. Chapter 69. Lu Dong was severely injured, and Qinfeng died. The Tianhai sect's prodigies were terrified. However, Lin Yi did not attack them. Next, Lu Dong led the way, and the group continued to run forward. However, they did not dare to speak carelessly or provoke Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue along the way. Half a month later, the group ran quickly, and when they encountered powerful beasts, they either killed them or avoided them. Finally, Lu Dong led the group to a large mountain. Rather than a large mountain, it was more like a huge mountain range. The mountain range towered into the clouds and was shrouded in clouds. This is the place, Lu Dong said. In half a month, his injuries had almost recovered, and he was extremely fearful of Lin Yi. Along the way, no one dared to provoke Lin Yi. A peak 5th level manifestation realm cultivator instantly killed a peak 9th level manifestation realm cultivator. With such strength, it would be strange if they were not afraid. Have you been to this secret realm before? Lin Yi looked at the mountain in front of him and asked. It was obvious that Lu Dong was very familiar with this place. He could come here directly without a map. Lin Yi naturally did not believe that he had never been here before. No, me neither. Never been here before. No. Hearing Lin Ye's question, the Tianhai sex prodigies all answered. Only Lu Dong did not answer. I've been here a few times, but I didn't find anything. Lu Dong did not wait for Lin Yi to ask him and had already spoken. He had been to this secret realm a few times. He knew about this place every time, but he did not have the strength to enter and could only return empty-handed. This time, his cultivation had reached the peak 9th level of the manifestation realm, so he naturally dared to invite others to come here. Lu Dong, can you speak now? Yang Kai, 9th level of the manifestation realm. His strength was slightly stronger than Lu Dong's. He was one of the top 3,000 prodigies of the Heavenly Sea sect. After coming to this mystic realm, Lu Dong was the first to invite him. However, Lu Dong never mentioned what treasure he had discovered. Yeah, Lu Dong. It's time to say it now. Senior brother Lu. Hearing Yang Kai's question about Lu Dong, everyone's curiosity was piqued, and they all turned to look at Lu Dong. Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue didn't open their mouths, but their eyes were fixed on Lu Dong. Lin Yi, was naturally not interested in this mystic realm. If it weren't for Luo Bingyue wanting to gain experience, he really wouldn't have come to this mystic realm. He had a lot of resources on him, so he wouldn't lack them for the time being. This secret realm was discovered tens of thousands of years ago. Back then, the Lu clan's old ancestor, who was also the Heavenly Sea sect's Grand Elder, came to this mystic realm when he was young and discovered this land of treasures. At that time, the old ancestor was at the peak of the 9th level of the manifestation realm. He obtained countless treasures, which allowed him to soar to the heavens and dominate the Heavenly Sea realm. However, the old ancestor never obtained the true treasure of this land of treasures. 5 years ago, I discovered the old ancestor's secret in the Lu clan's library, so I came to this land of treasures. However, my cultivation wasn't enough, so I obtained nothing. At this point, Lu Dong couldn't hide it anymore. He had no choice but to reveal the secret of how he discovered this land of treasures. He had come to this mystic realm 7 times. All 7 times he came here with nothing, because all 7 times he came here. Last time, he was at the 8th level of the manifestation realm and almost entered the land of treasures, but he left with regrets. A year later, he reached the peak of the 9th level of the manifestation realm and was very confident that he could enter the land of treasures. More importantly, the seal of the land of treasures was becoming more and more loose. Therefore, he invited the Heavenly Sea sect's prodigies to come here. Next, Lu Dong led the group towards the mountain peak. After entering the mountain peak, they found a passage in a secluded place. It was a passage made of bluestone. The passage was 5 meters tall and 5 meters wide. It was extremely humid and covered in moss. It was dark and gloomy. Lu Dong led the way in front, while Lin Yi and the rest followed behind. The deeper they went, the lower the passage went. 1 mile, 2 miles, after walking for more than 100 miles, the group finally reached the end of the passage. At the end of the passage was a mysterious light screen. The light screen flickered and emitted a destructive aura. This is a hurdle. Be careful. Lu Dong looked at the light screen from afar, and his expression became serious. Last time, he had suffered a loss from this light screen. He had almost died under this light screen. Chi-chi, chi-chi on the light screen. Faint sounds kept coming. No one dared to be the first to pass through the light screen. Lu Dong looked at the others and walked towards the light screen first. When he arrived in front of the light screen, he circulated his true essence and unleashed the all-creation's power. At the same time, a 9th-grade spirit treasure shield appeared and covered his entire body. Step by step, he walked towards the light screen. Crash! The 9th-grade spirit treasure shield was distorted by the light screen and shattered into pieces. The moment the shield shattered, Lu Dong had just passed through the light screen. Otherwise, his entire body would have been like a shield. Sizzle, seeing this scene, the rest of the group couldn't help but sigh. The first hurdle was already so terrifying. They didn't know how many more dangerous obstacles there would be. Even if they entered, it was uncertain whether they could get any treasures. An 8th grade all creations prodigy put up a defense. As soon as he touched the light screen, his defense was destroyed, along with his body. So terrifying. An 8th grade all creations cultivator died under the light screen, just like that. It was shocking and frightening. For a moment, they didn't dare to pass through the light screen rashly. They looked at each other, not knowing what to do. If they went forward, they might die. If they went back, it would be a wasted trip. Let's go. Lin Ye's expression was calm, but his heart was filled with excitement and anticipation, because he could see that there was a trace of freezing sky aurora in the light screen. Using the freezing sky aurora as a defense was indeed a big deal. There must be some incredible treasures inside. While speaking, Lin Yi held Luo Bingyue's small hand and walked towards the light screen. Then, with a stroke of his hand, a Taiji shield appeared in front of them. The Taiji shields, 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 Taiji shield was magical. Hiss, hiss, under everyone's shocked gaze. Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue passed through the light screen and entered the other side. The Taiji shields, Taiji shields, Taiji shields, Taiji shields, Taiji shields, Taiji shield wasn't damaged at all. It didn't even tremble. The destructive light screen fell on the Taiji shields, Taiji shields, Taiji shields, Taiji shield. This what's going on? So easy? That's not possible, right? Could it be that this light screen is cheating? Seeing Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue pass through the light screen so easily, everyone's jaws dropped. They couldn't believe their eyes. Lu Dong's 9th grade spiritual shield was destroyed before he could pass through. Another 8th level all creation realm expert was killed when he touched the light screen. One could imagine how terrifying the light screen was. But Lin Ye's simple light shield was actually able to easily block the power of the light curtain. This was simply too shocking. However, Lin Ye's passing through the light screen was an indisputable fact. Chapter 70. Junior Brother Lin. Sister Luo. Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue passed through the light screen and appeared on the other side. On the other side of the light screen was a maze. When the two of them appeared, Lu Dong's voice sounded. It seemed like he had been waiting here and didn't search for treasures alone. Senior Brother Lu. Lin Yi called out indifferently. He could tell that Lu Dong didn't search for treasures alone. He must want to borrow everyone's strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't have invited so many people to this treasure land. Time passed by, second by second. After 15 minutes, only 6 people passed through the light screen. Lu Dong, Lin Yi, Luo Bingyue, Yang Kai, Han Su, and Mo Ning. Lu Dong, Yang Kai, and Han Su were all at the 9th level of all creation. Mo Ning was one of the 4 women at the 7th level of all creation. Lin Yi was at the peak of the 5th level of all creation. Luo Bingyue had the lowest cultivation, only at the 9th level of Heaven Dipper realm. She was only 1 step away from the all creation realm. There were a total of 13 people who came to the secret realm this time. Except for 3 people who left, the others died. Chun Feng was killed by Lin Yi, and 3 people died under the light screen. This is the outer area, right? Lin Yi glanced at Lu Dong intentionally and said, "That's right. The ancestor has already searched this place. I came here once, but I found nothing." Lu Dong nodded. This place was indeed the outer area. The ancestor of the Lu family, who was also the former grand elder of the Tianhai sect, took away all the treasures in the outer area, but he couldn't enter the innermost area. "What about now?" Lin Yi asked. "Now, we have to work together. Break the second barrier," Lu Dong said. After saying that, he walked forward. As long as he could enter, no matter how strong Lin Yi was, it wouldn't affect him. That was because he still had a backup plan. The treasures here were all his. If he could obtain the treasures here, he would soar to the heavens. Thinking of this, Lu Dong's face revealed a trace of pride. This place was like a maze. While Lu Dong, on the other hand, was very familiar with this place, as if it was his own home. Lin Yi extended his spiritual force outwards, but the stone walls here blocked his spiritual force. He could only extend his divine will to the front. With his divine telekinesis at level 34, his divine telekinesis could extend up to 10 miles. Time passed by, second by second. A full 2 hours passed. Lu Dong brought Lin Yi and the others to the center of the maze. Altars, that's right. It was an altar. It was a huge altar. It had a diameter of 10 meters and a height of 2 meters. There was a light barrier above the altar. In order to break this light barrier, one had to either break the array formation or attack it forcefully. Obviously, Lu Dong wasn't an array master. Therefore, he chose to attack forcefully. Otherwise, he wouldn't have invited the other experts of the Tianhai sect. Let's do it. Lu Dong looked at the light barrier and couldn't help but feel excited. As long as he could break this light barrier, he could enter the altar. The treasures in the altar would all be his. Rumble, rumble, suddenly, Lin Yi, Luo Bingyue, Yang Kai, Lu Dong, Mo Ning, and Han Su, the 6 of them displayed their powerful attacks. A large number of attacks landed on the light barrier. For a moment, there was a slight fluctuation in the light barrier. Although it didn't tremble or break, there was a reaction. If this continued, it was only a matter of time before the light barrier was broken. Time passed by, second by second. Half a quarter of an hour later, with a slight shattering sound, the light barrier shattered. Whoosh, without hesitation, Lu Dong's figure flashed. He was the first to rush towards the altar. His entire person disappeared from the altar. Only after Lu Dong disappeared did the others react. Immediately, Lin Yi and the others also flew towards the altar, fighting to be the first one to enter the altar, and finally disappeared from sight. After passing through the altar, the 6 of them entered a hall. The hall was empty. This situation made several people involuntarily feel a wave of disappointment. But at this time, they didn't notice that a dark gold token appeared in Lu Dong's hand. The moment the token appeared, it suddenly burst out with a strong light. The light wrapped around Lu Dong and quickly disappeared. Damn it! Seeing this, Yang Kai and the others naturally knew that they had been tricked. Lu Dong invited them here, and it was completely a gift for Lu Dong. Now that Lu Dong had disappeared alone, needless to say, he must have entered the secret treasury. Break! Lin Yi closed his eyes slightly. A moment later, he activated his divine telekinesis and shouted. Suddenly, a terrifying divine telekinesis spread out. This time, a strange scene appeared. The original hall disappeared, and what came with it was a space-time gate. There were a total of 9 space-time gates. Screech, Yang Kai, Han Su, and the others were shocked when they saw Lin Yi's means. Lu Dong, you deserve to die. Han Su shouted loudly, because they had already seen that Lu Dong had just entered a space-time gate. Don't talk nonsense. Lin Yi glanced at Han Su and said indifferently. Then, he looked at Luo Bingyue. He signaled Luo Bingyue to choose a space-time gate. They all understood that there must be magical treasures behind the space-time gate. Han Su, Yang Kai, and Mo Ning didn't dare to hesitate and hurriedly chose a space-time gate and walked in. For a time, only Lin Yi was left outside. Seeing that they had already entered the space-time gate, Lin Yi closed his eyes slightly. He slowly extended his divine telekinesis. A moment later, his figure flashed and walked towards one of the space-time gates. Pop! With a soft sound, Lin Yi walked through the space-time gate. What appeared in front of him was a radiance. The radiance was extremely cold. Seeing the radiance, Lin Yi was so excited that he almost shouted out. What was it that made Lin Yi so excited? This was the space-time gate that he had chosen, and he had used his divine telekinesis to sense it. Freezing sky aurora. The real freezing sky aurora. In Lin Yi's sight, it was a radiance. The radiance was extremely dazzling and extremely cold. It was the sacred stage martial skill, freezing sky aurora, that he had cultivated. However, the freezing sky aurora that he had cultivated was only a ray of light. It couldn't be considered an aurora at all. But here, it was endless freezing sky aurora. What made him even more excited was that in the center of the freezing sky aurora, there was a ball of radiance that was the size of a fist. That was the origin of the freezing sky aurora. All the freezing sky aurora was emitted by the origin of the aurora. Keep. The 3,000 heavenly axiom revolved, and his divine telekinesis flowed. His state of mind calmed down, and without any delay, he quickly absorbed the freezing sky aurora. At the same time, he walked step by step towards the center of the freezing sky aurora. He knew that out of the 9 space-time gates, each of the 6 of them had occupied one space-time gate. The remaining 3 would definitely be snatched by the faster ones. However, what made him disappointed was that the absorption of the freezing sky aurora was very, very slow. It had to be slow. If it was too fast, he wouldn't be able to bear it. He could only absorb it bit by bit. Time passed by minute by minute. Unknowingly, 2 days had passed. He had completely forgotten the passage of time. His entire mind was absorbing the freezing sky aurora. As he absorbed, he refined and controlled it, making his sacred stage martial skill even more powerful. What made him happy was that the freezing sky aurora was constantly strengthening his martial skill and tempering his body. He was multitasking. He was circulating the divine dragon 9 transformations. He was circulating the Luo Water Sutra. He was circulating the freezing sky aurora. At the same time that Lin Yi was absorbing the freezing sky aurora, a terrifying change occurred outside the space-time gate. Outside the space-time gate, there were over 1 million manifestation realm experts. Moreover, these manifestation realm experts were all at the peak of the 9th level. Over 100 manifestation realm experts were divided into 2 camps. On one side, there were 100 of them, and all of them were dressed in black robes. On the other side, there were only 10 of them, but they were emitting a terrifying and destructive aura. They weren't any weaker than the 100 manifestation realm experts on the other side. Not far from these experts, Lu Dong, and Mo Ning, and Yang Kai were kneeling on the ground. Their bodies were covered in wounds, and blood was constantly flowing out from their bodies and mouths. Their faces were pale. Chapter 71. You from the demonic sect, how dare you touch the things that belong to our young master Aolai? The elite that was emitting a destructive aura glanced at the 100 elites. Even though there were only 10 of them, he was not afraid at all, because they were from the Fey God sect. The elites from the Fey God sect were all extremely powerful. They were almost invincible among their peers. The ones on the other side were from the demonic sect. The elites from the demonic sect were equally powerful. There were people from all walks of life, and their methods were vicious. Scram! Our young master has set his mind on that treasure. Aolai wants to go against our young master. Shuexiu, who was wearing a black robe, said coldly. He was emitting an evil aura. As for the 3 heavenly sea sex prodigies, they were completely ignored. When all the treasures are gathered, I'll break your neck. I'll let you know that the Fey God sect is not something you can mess with. Yao Feng licked his lips as if he was looking at a delicious meal. He was not in a hurry to attack. Similarly, the elites from the demonic sect were not in a hurry to attack either, because they wanted to wait until all the treasures were gathered before they attacked. Now, only 3 of the heavenly sea sex prodigies had come out. There were 3 more that were not. Not to mention, there were still 3 elites from the demonic sect and the Fey God sect in the Gate of Time. The moment when Lin Yi and the others entered the secret territory, the elites from the demonic sect and the Fey God sect had also entered the secret territory. They had been tailing Lin Yi and the others, but they did not attack. Instead, they waited for Lin Yi and the others to get the treasures so that they could take advantage of them. Whoosh! After a while, a Fey God sect elite walked out of the Gate of Time. Then, he shook his head. 15 minutes later, a demonic sect elite walked out of the Gate of Time. This demonic sect elite walked up to his companions. He shook his head to show that he did not find what he wanted. One day later, Luo Bingyue walked out of the Gate of Time. The moment she came out, she was stunned by what she saw. She did not expect that something would happen outside. 2 days later, a demonic sect elite walked out of the Gate of Time. He walked up to his companions and shook his head. 3 days later, Han Su walked out of the Gate of Time. When he came out, just like Luo Bingyue, his expression changed. There's one more. There's one more. Shuexiu from the demonic sect and Yao Feng from the demon god sect spoke at the same time when they saw Han Su. Both of them had expectant looks in their eyes, and their auras were extremely evil. Among the 9 space-time gates, Only one of them was still closed. The other 8 space-time gates were open, and the people inside had all come out. Hiss, within the freezing sky Aurora. Lin had already approached the ball of light. Origin Aurora, the destructive aura, was almost suffocating. In a full 3 days, Linya's saint-ranked martial skill, Heavenly Frost Aurora, had long since reached the peak of the first stage. His Divine Dragon 9 transformations had reached the 3rd transformation, and his physique was several times stronger than before. He had already finished refining the freezing sky Aurora. Only the Origin Aurora had not been completely subdued. Collect. After an unknown period of time, Lin Yi shouted softly. The freezing sky Aurora was unleashed and wrapped around the Origin Aurora. Then, with a thought, the Origin Aurora entered the ninefold space. Originally, he wanted to subdue and refine the Origin Aurora here. Because the appearance of refining the freezing sky Aurora, the space could not withstand it. However, time waited for no one. He had to take away the Origin Aurora first and think of a way to refine it in the future. The freezing sky Aurora and the Origin Aurora disappeared. The space was completely empty. Lin Yi calmed down his excitement and walked toward the space-time gate in a flash. He knew that he had used 3 days. The remaining 3 space-time gates must have been occupied by others. However, obtaining the Origin Aurora was already a terrifying harvest for him. Hiss, with a soft sound, Lin Yi passed through the space-time gate. He appeared outside the space-time gate. After coming out, the scene in front of him made him exclaim in surprise. More than 100 demonic sect experts and 10 devil god religion experts were already waiting here. Lin Yi. The fluctuation of the space-time gate and Lin Yi's appearance attracted everyone's attention. Seeing Lin Yi, Luo Binghua shouted. He. Finally out. Shuexiu laughed, his eyes bloodthirsty. As long as he could kill a few humans, the treasure would be his. He could also report to the young master. He might even be able to perform meritorious deeds because of this treasure. Ants don't deserve to have such a good treasure. Shuexiu, tell me, how do you want to split it? Yao Feng grinned, revealing a bloodthirsty expression. His demonic aura soared to the sky, and his terrifying aura suppressed this space. Although there were only 10 people on his side, he was absolutely confident that he could destroy all of them. All the treasures here belonged to Shao Zun. The others could only dream of getting a share. Split? The devil god religion must be here to make fun of us. The young master wants everything here. Shuexiu laughed sinisterly. At this moment, his side had the absolute advantage, whether it was obvious or not. The devil god religion and the demonic sect were both evil. Here, they completely ignored the heavenly sea sect experts. Indeed, they had the ability and strength to do so. In their eyes, Lin Yi and the others were just a few weak ants that they could crush with a finger. Ignorant. Strangle. Yao Feng felt terrible after hearing Shuexiu's words. Instantly, his body changed rapidly. His aura soared, and his physique became violent. In an instant, he became 10 meters tall. There was a huge war hammer in his hand, which exuded a destructive aura. Even the space in front of him trembled. The other experts from the demon god religion also transformed quickly. At the same time, the experts from the demon god sect activated a powerful sacred weapon and pressed down on the demonic sect experts. Kill. The devil god religion expert also released a terrifying demonic aura. Suddenly, a terrifying battle broke out between the devil god religion and the devil god religion experts. As for the heavenly sea sect experts, they were completely ignored. This was because the aftermath of the battle between the devil god religion and the devil god religion experts could destroy the heavenly sea sect experts. When the battle ended, they could just take the treasures from the heavenly sea sect experts. In an instant, demonic aura filled the sky. Yang Kai and Lu Dong. The two of them died instantly. In front of the devil god religion's saint weapon, more than 30 devil god religion experts were killed instantly. 2 experts from the demon god religion had fallen. Lin Yi looked at the battle between the devil god religion and the devil god religion experts. He stretched out his hand and pulled Luo Binghua away. Like a breeze, he disappeared from the attack range of the devil god religion and the devil god religion experts. From the beginning to the end, Lin Yi looked calm and emotionless. In just 10 seconds, the battle ended. There were only 30 devil god religion experts left. There were only 4 devil god religion experts left. Only Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue were left from the Heavenly Sea sect experts. Yao Feng, you can't use the saint weapon anymore, right? Then, I'll show you the power of the demonic blood drum. Shuexiu chuckled. Although the demonic sect had lost more than 60 manifestation realm elites, to him, it was like losing a few ants. In a world where the strong ruled, the most worthless thing in the eyes of the devil god religion was life. As soon as he finished his sentence, a war drum appeared in Shuexiu's hand. The war drum was filled with bloody aura and demonic aura. Shuexiu punched the war drum, and the space around it distorted. Boom, boom, the demonic blood drum emitted a destructive bloody light. The bloody light charged towards Yao Feng and the other 3. On the ground, the bodies of the devil god religion and the devil god religion experts were instantly shredded into pieces by the bloody light. What was left were storage bags. Oof, Lin Yi snorted. He activated his divine telekinesis, which is at the peak of level 34, and quickly protected the 2 of them. The demonic blood drum not only had a terrifying physical attack, but also had a domineering soul attack or sound wave attack. In an instant, Yao Feng and the other 3 were in agony. They spat out mouthfuls of blood. Then, their bodies were shredded into pieces by the bloody light. They could not be more dead. From the start of the battle between the devil god religion and the devil god religion to the end, the entire battle took less than 20 seconds. The 10 devil god religion experts were all dead, and there were only about 30 devil god religion experts left. Shuexiu looked around and saw that Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue were unharmed. He could not help but exclaim in surprise. Then, a bloodthirsty smile appeared on his face. Chapter 72. Die. The blood elementalist looked at Luo Bingyue and Lin Yi. With a roar, he punched the demonic blood drum. Suddenly, the demonic blood drum emitted a bloody light. Wherever the bloody light passed, the space was penetrated. Oomph, Lin Yi snorted. With a wave of his hand, the freezing sky aurora burst out. Instantly, a ray of light flew towards the bloody light. The freezing sky aurora was 2 meters wide and 5 meters long. It was like a belt of light. It was extremely cold and destructive. Wherever it passed, the space was destroyed. Splash, with a soft sound, the bloody light and the cold sky aurora collided. The bloody light was instantly extinguished, as if it had evaporated into thin air. It had completely vaporized. However, the power and speed of the freezing sky aurora did not decrease. It flew past the blood elementalist body. The blood elementalist body was destroyed. The demonic sect experts behind him were in a daze. They were extremely shocked. Before they could react, the freezing sky aurora had already arrived. In an instant, the demonic sect experts who were hit by the freezing sky aurora were either killed or injured. The second level of the freezing sky aurora was extremely powerful. All dead. Lin Yi's voice was extremely calm. However, he was not calm when he attacked. With a wave of his hand, the freezing sky aurora appeared again. When the freezing sky aurora landed on the demonic sect experts, they were destroyed. In just 3 seconds, all the demonic sect experts present were killed. Luo Bingyue's beautiful face was filled with shock. She could not believe what she had just seen. She did not expect Lin Yi to be so powerful. The demonic sect experts who were at the peak of all creation level 9 were like ants in front of him. Silence. They are all dead. After a long time, Luo Bingyue woke up from her stupor. She muttered to herself. When she left the space-time portal and saw so many demonic sect and devil god religion experts, her heart sank. She knew that they were doomed. However, she did not expect Lin Yi to solve all of this so easily. Lin Yi's strength was a huge blow to her. Whoosh whoosh, whoosh whoosh. Let's go. In a flash, Lin Yi collected all the storage bags on the ground. He took all the storage bags and treasures from the experts of the demon god sect and the demon sect. After finishing everything, he pulled Luo Bingyue and quickly left. This was definitely not a place to stay for long. Since he had been targeted by the demonic sect and the Fey god religion, he had no choice. In that case, it would be dangerous for him to stay here. A moment later, Lin Yi pulled Luo Bingyue out of the hall. Following the passageway, they rushed out. Luo Bingyue's beautiful face flushed red. She was extremely shy, but in her heart, there were traces of happiness and joy. This feeling almost made her fall. "I'm finally out," Lin Yi said. His eyes scanned the surroundings as he extended his divine sense. Within a radius of 10 miles, everything was in his mind. "Are we going back now?" Luo Bingyue asked Lin Yi softly. More than a dozen people came on this adventure, but now only the two of them were left. "Let's find a place first. Let's count our gains this time." Lin Yi had a smile on his face. Every time he gained something, he would be happy. This time was no exception. "Okay," Luo Bingyue nodded. Then, the two of them quickly ran away. Just as Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue left the mountain peak, a small hummingbird flew up. The moment the hummingbird flew up, a mysterious ripple appeared in the air. The hummingbird quickly entered the ripple and disappeared. The Heavenly Sea sect recruited disciples once every 10 years. 10 years were about to pass, and the day of recruitment was coming. Every time, the Heavenly Sea sect would recruit 3,000 genius disciples. Those who could enter the Heavenly Sea sect were either geniuses with emperor physiques or experts above the manifestation realm. These 3,000 disciples were the cream of the crop after being selected by countless geniuses. Instantly, countless experts and geniuses from the Heavenly Sea realm rushed to the Heavenly Sea city. The Heavenly Sea city was already overcrowded. The taverns and inns were already full. Demon God cult, demon cult. They are eyeing the Heavenly Sea sect. I wonder what's going on at the Heavenly Demon Canyon. Heavenly Sea sect, Heavenly Sea Palace. This was the deepest part of the Heavenly Sea sect, the meeting place of the highest level. At this moment, more than a dozen peerless experts of the Heavenly Sea sect were gathered in the Heavenly Sea Palace. Every one of them was the most powerful existence in the Heavenly Sea sect. They could make the Heavenly Sea realm tremble with a stomp of their feet. Sitting at the head of the table was the current Heavenly Sea sect master. He was the Heavenly Sea sect master, Murong Tianzheng. Sect master, guarding the Heavenly Demon Canyon is fine for now. However, the seal of the Heavenly Demon Canyon has already loosened. The one who spoke was one of the 10 great elders of the Heavenly Sea sect, Elder Shui. The Heavenly Demon Canyon had always been guarded by 2 elders to ensure that there would not be any trouble. At the same time, the elders guarding the Heavenly Demon Canyon had to send messages to the Heavenly Sea sect every day, reporting every movement in the Heavenly Demon Canyon. The Heavenly Sea sect could even watch the images of the Heavenly Demon Canyon at any time. "We can't let the demon cult open the Heavenly Demon Canyon. Otherwise, the Heavenly Sea realm will be destroyed." Experts from the Demon God cult and Demon cult appeared in Secret Realm 03. "What's going on?" First Elder Zhao Qingyu sat at the head of the table. His status in the entire Heavenly Sea sect was extraordinary. He looked at the other elders and asked in confusion. These elders were not one of the 10 great elders. They were just ordinary elders in charge of daily affairs and were in the Yin-Yang realm. "There's such a thing?" Murong Tianzheng was startled when he heard the first elder's words. It was definitely not a simple matter to catch the first elder's attention. "Sect Master, First Elder. Many experts from the Demon God cult and Demon cult have entered Secret Realm 03. There are also Yin-Yang realm experts guarding outside the Secret Realm." The External Affairs Elder replied. He explained the situation outside Secret Realm 03. There were many secret realms in the Heavenly Sea sect. These secret realms were numbered. Secret Realm 03 was the secret realm under the island thousands of miles away from the Heavenly Sea city. That secret realm was thousands of miles away from the Heavenly Sea city. It was at the doorstep of the Heavenly Sea sect. Generally speaking, people from the Demon God cult and Demon cult would not dare to come here. More importantly, the treasures and resources in that secret realm had already been searched. The remaining treasures were all dangerous places that no one dared to set foot in. It was almost an abandoned secret realm. Did the disciples of the Heavenly Sea sect enter Secret Realm 03? First Elder frowned and asked hurriedly. If the demon cult and the demon god cult could enter Secret Realm 03 at the same time, it meant that the demon cult and the demon god cult had found some incredible treasure in Secret Realm 03. Otherwise, the demon cult and the demon god cult would not take the risk. Before the demon cult and the demon god cult entered the secret realm, the inner disciples of the Heavenly Sea sect, Yang Kai, Lu Dong, Chun Feng, and Luo Bingyue, entered Secret Realm 03. The External Affairs Elder reported all the people who had entered and left Secret Realm 03 during this period. For a moment, the Heavenly Sea Palace fell silent. All of the elders had ugly expressions on their faces. A treasure had appeared in their secret realm, but they did not know that the demon cult and the demon god cult had gotten it first. Send someone to keep an eye on it. The sect master knew the seriousness of the matter. He quickly asked the External Affairs Elder to send someone to guard Secret Realm 03. Chapter 73. In a hidden cave in the Mystery Land, Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue, one was cultivating, the other was counting the spoils of war. The one cultivating was naturally Luo Bingyue. The one counting the spoils of war was Lin Yi. The two were in the cave. Luo Bingyue went in and started cultivating. The ambiguous atmosphere in the cave was reduced a lot. With Luo Bingyue's personality, she was naturally embarrassed to be alone in a cave with Lin Yi. She could only use cultivation to get rid of the awkwardness. After a full 2 hours, Lin Yi counted all the items. There were 100 experts from the demonic sect and 10 experts from the devil god religion. All the wealth was in Lin Yi's hands. There were all kinds of materials, spiritual stones, demonic weapons, spiritual weapons, and sacred weapons. However, Lin Yi did not care about these items. What he cared about were the treasures in the 9 space-time portals. He had obtained the Heavenly Frost Aurora and the Origin Aurora behind one of the space-time portals. He believed that there should be good gains behind the other 8 space-time portals. Except for Luo Bingyue, Yang Kai and the others' gains were all in Lin Yi's storage bag. 1 cauldron, 1 sword, 1 scroll of cultivation method, 1 martial technique, 1 ball of radiance, 1 tree, 1 jade bottle. The cauldron was the size of a palm and exuded an ancient aura. The sword was extremely exquisite and gave people a feeling of extreme sharpness. The cultivation method was called the Starry Sky Divine Technique, a sacred level. The martial technique was called the Azura Hell, a sacred level. The radiance was a sacred source. The tree was called the Chaotic Divine Tree, a small sapling. The jade bottle contained 10 drops of cleansing fire. Except for Luo Bingyue, who obtained the treasure behind one of the 9 space-time portals, the rest were all in Lin Yi's hands. Seeing the magical treasures here, Lin Yi could not help but tremble. As for the wealth of the demonic sect and the devil god religion, it was nothing compared to the treasures behind the space-time portals. Bingyue, you were behind the space-time portals. What did you get? Lin Yi asked Luo Bingyue after putting all the items into the 9-fold space. Needless to say, the experts from the demon sect and the devil god religion were after the treasures behind the doors of time and space. However, no one knew how the demon sect and the devil god religion got the news and what treasures they were after. I found the heart of ice essence inside, Luo Bingyue replied. She had chosen the gate of space and time, and the things she had obtained from it were just right for her. The heart of ice essence. After fusing with the heart of ice essence, her cultivation soared without the slightest hindrance. Now, he had reached the 6th level of all creation, directly crossing 7 levels. His level was even higher than Lin Yi's. Although she still had a sovereign body, it was already a peerless sovereign body, which was similar to an ordinary saint body. I wonder how much the demonic cult and Fey Celestial cult know about this place. Lin Yi thought in his mind. The demonic cult and Fey Celestial cult took the risk to come to this secret realm, so they should have some understanding of the treasures inside. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come to the secret realm in front of the Heavenly Sea sect. Moreover, this mystic realm was basically worthless now. They came for the soul suppression cauldron. The demons and monsters know about the existence of the soul suppression cauldron. As soon as Lin Yi finished speaking, a voice appeared in his mind. This voice almost caused Lin Yi to be shocked to death. After all, this voice came from his mind. It would be strange if he wasn't afraid of such a strange thing. Who are you? Lin Yi used his divine telekinesis and quickly checked his sea of consciousness. He found a faint light in his sea of consciousness. This light wasn't the sword light of the heart of the sword, but a divine sense or divine telekinesis. Seeing this, he quickly used his divine telekinesis to communicate. How terrifying it was that an outsider appeared in his mind. My name is Biluo. The voice was clear and crisp, but it was old-fashioned. It was as if she was superior. Why are you in my sea of consciousness? Lin Yi was sure that it was a woman in his sea of consciousness. He didn't know what she looked like or her age because it was just a divine telekinesis in his sea of consciousness. It hadn't taken on a human form yet. But why was this woman in his mind? It was simply shocking. I was in the heavenly frost aurora. When you were refining and absorbing the heavenly frost aurora, I entered your sea of consciousness. The woman called Biluo said indifferently. That arrogance was innate. You want to take over my body? Lin Yi thought of a terrifying thing. Could it be that this woman called Biluo wanted to take over his body? If so, that would be terrifying. Take over your body? What a joke. From Biluo's tone, it was obvious that she was stunned. After a moment, Biluo reacted and chuckled as if she was mocking Lin Yi. Then why don't you come out? If you don't want to take over my body, what do you want to do? Lin Yi naturally didn't believe Biluo's words. With an outsider in his mind, no one would be at ease. This was worse than being a thorn in his flesh, because this was a matter of life and death. It might even turn him into a walking corpse. Don't worry, I won't take over your body. Firstly, you're a man. Secondly, your divine telekinesis is strange and your fate is strange. I can't take over your body. Thirdly, even if I take over your body, it won't be of much help to me. Biluo's voice sounded. She said 3 reasons why she wouldn't take over his body. This made Lin Yi feel a little more at ease, but he still didn't completely believe Biluo. So you've been in my sea of consciousness all this time? Lin Yi asked. Until now, he didn't know what to do. If his divine telekinesis had reached level 40, he would have directly erased Biluo. But he didn't have the ability to do so now, so he was in a dilemma. Definitely. But you're lucky to have met me. I can help you. Of course, when you're strong enough, you have to help me too. Biluo admitted that she would always be in Lin Yi's sea of consciousness. But she could help Lin Yi a lot. The condition was that when Lin Yi was strong enough, he had to help her and let her leave his sea of consciousness to be herself. What can you help me with? Lin Yi was helpless. He had no choice but to take one step at a time. A trace of curiosity arose in his heart. He didn't know how this Biluo could help him. Just with a trace of divine telekinesis? Was that possible? He naturally didn't believe it. Although I'm only a trace of divine telekinesis now. But I have memories that can help you with your cultivation. You can refine the soul suppression cauldron, and I'll help you guard your divine telekinesis. I can lend you great power. Biluo said confidently. After that, she didn't speak anymore, giving Lin Yi time to digest the shock that she had just brought to him. Lin Yi fell into deep thought, digesting the shock and impact that Biluo had brought to him. Time passed by minute by minute. After a full 15 minutes, Lin Yi finally calmed down. You can see things outside? You said this cauldron is the soul suppression cauldron. Holding the palm-sized cauldron, Lin Yi asked. Chapter 74. The soul-suppressing cauldron is an ancient magical treasure. It can condense divine will and suppress the divine soul. As long as the divine soul is indestructible, one will live forever and not be afraid of reincarnation. Biluo's voice sounded in Lin Yi's mind. He could tell from her voice that she was very familiar with the soul-suppressing cauldron. At least, she knew what it was. As long as the divine soul is indestructible. As long as the divine soul is indestructible. Lin Yi seemed to understand, but his eyes were shining. If one's divine was really powerful and the divine soul was indestructible, it would be possible for the divine soul to be indestructible even after the physical body was destroyed. As long as the divine soul was still there, one would be immortal. However, could one really reach that step? That's right. This girl with you is not bad. Biluo's divine will answered Lin Yi. She could also see Luo Bingyue, who was cultivating in the cave. She could see everything outside. She could even see things that couldn't be seen with her eyes. You want to condense your divine soul with the soul-suppressing cauldron, right? Lin Yi was shocked. Although he did not show it on his face, he was also shocked. He did not expect Biluo to be able to see Luo Bingyue. You're half right. Let's get out of here first. At the same time, put the chaotic divine tree in your space. It's very useful. Little guy, you'll be tired in the future. There was a hint of anticipation in by Luo's voice. She also seemed to be waiting to see a joke. Okay, Lin Yi agreed. As long as Biluo was not harmful to him, it was fine. Then, he used his divine will. He put the chaotic divine tree into the ninefold space and planted the sapling in the center of the ninefold space. He did not know what the chaotic divine tree was for. You have to make sure the chaotic divine tree survives. You have to find a 5-color divine stone, heavenly heart divine fruit, 1,000 spirit water, heavenly annihilation cleansing fire, and the sacred source. Biluo spoke again after Lin Yi planted the chaotic divine tree. This time, Lin Yi couldn't help but be stunned when he spoke. Although he didn't know what these things were, he could tell from their names that they weren't simple. Just the cleansing fire of heavenly annihilation and the saint source alone were miraculous treasures. This was because he had the cleansing fire of heavenly annihilation and the saint source. Both of them were treasures that he had obtained this time. Then the 5-color divine stone should be on the same level as the cleansing heavenly extinguishing flame. Where was he going to find such a miraculous treasure? Moreover, until now, he still did not know what the chaotic divine tree was used for. Why would he waste so much effort and precious resources to nurture the chaotic divine tree? 5-color divine stone, heavenly heart divine fruit, myriad spirit water. Where can I get it? Lin Yi was puzzled. He asked Biluo with his divine sense. These things are indeed heaven-defying items. However, if the chaotic sacred tree is properly nurtured, it will benefit you for the rest of your life. Do you know what the chaotic sacred tree is used for? Biluo also knew that with Lin Yi's current cultivation and strength, he definitely wouldn't be able to obtain these heaven-defying items. Moreover, there weren't such precious items in the remote lower planes. However, she wanted Lin Yi to try his best to find these heaven-defying items. She didn't tell Lin Yi that these things were just the beginning of nurturing the chaotic sacred tree. In other words, they were using these things to grow the chaotic sacred tree. The current chaotic sacred tree was just not dead yet. Where are its uses? Is it more powerful than the soul suppression cauldron? Lin Yi was indeed curious. To be honest, he really didn't know what the chaotic sacred tree was used for. The chaotic sacred tree. It's the only existence in the universe that can change the laws. In other words, the chaotic sacred tree is a species outside of the laws. Under the chaotic sacred tree, you can directly observe and comprehend intents, territories, and laws. Even the origin and heavenly Tao can change time and space. It's also a heaven-defying divine medicine. In the future, you will truly know the power of the chaotic sacred tree. Biluo said. When talking about the chaotic sacred tree, she couldn't help but feel excited. She knew that among the treasures that Lin Yi had obtained, although the soul suppression cauldron was magical, it was far inferior to the chaotic sacred tree. In fact, even if he sold countless worlds and planes, it wouldn't be worth a billionth of the chaotic sacred tree's value. However, can you find things like the 5-colored sacred stone? Lin Yi was shocked when he heard this. He didn't expect the chaotic sacred tree to be so heaven-defying. However, wanting to find these treasures was simply a fantasy. Everything has a chance of survival. Where the chaotic sacred tree is, the 5-colored sacred stone and the all-spirit water won't be too far away. Let's not talk about the chaotic sacred tree for now. Let's leave this place first. You still have a lot of things to do. You have to control the few things that you have obtained this time, especially the cultivation techniques and martial skills. Biluo's words were a little obscure. It was the heavenly Tao. It was a mystery. Lin Yi stopped communicating with Biluo and withdrew his divine thought. Then, he kept all the spoils of war. Bingyue, let's go. He looked at Luo Bingyue and said, Okay. Luo Bingyue nodded in a low voice and stood up. Then, the two of them left the cave and walked toward the exit of the secret realm. There was a fixed teleportation formation in this secret realm. As long as the teleportation formation was activated, it could teleport people out of the secret realm. Moreover, there was more than one teleportation formation in the secret realm. After half a day, the two of them left through the teleportation formation. They appeared on the island outside the secret realm. As soon as they appeared, Lin Yi's divine thought sensed a powerful aura. The threat of death enveloped him. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, 3 powerful auras came crushing over. At the same time, 3 figures appeared around Lin Yi in a triangular formation, surrounding him and Luo Bingyue. Their powerful auras and might kept crushing him. Yin-Yang realm experts. And they were very powerful. Hand over your storage bag. I can spare your life. An evil voice rang out. The one who spoke was a super expert in a black robe. The demonic aura on his body surged. Within 100 meters, there was pure and dense demonic aura. The space in front of him kept twisting. Obviously, this was a super expert from the demonic sect. Give me your storage bag. I promise you won't die. Another voice rang out. The one who spoke was emitting a domineering demonic aura. His tall body was like an ancient beast. Beside him, there was a thin old man. However, the destructive demonic aura that the old man emitted confirmed that he was not a human. A Yin-Yang realm expert from the demonic sect. 2 Yin-Yang realm experts from the Fey God sect. They completely regarded Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue as ants. As far as they were concerned, they could crush these 2 puny, all-creation experts to death with a single finger. Can you really guarantee that I won't die? Lin Yi looked at the 3 Yin-Yang realm experts. He was curious. How did the demonic sect and the Fey God sect know that the treasure was with him? It seemed that he had been targeted when he came out of the treasure land. He was careless. This was a lesson. He could not easily reveal that he had obtained the treasure. Didn't the other party need a storage bag? Just give it to him. Yes. Yes. The experts from the demonic sect and the Fey God sect were delighted to see Lin Yi being so considerate. However, they were worried that Lin Yi would give the storage bag to the other party. Here, Lin Yi stretched out his hand and threw a storage pouch at the 2 Yin-Yang experts from the demon god sect. Chapter 75. Die. The skinny old man's figure changed, instantly turning into a huge, ferocious beast. The domineering power of Yin and Yang twisted space. Its claws viciously slashed at the demonic sect elite. The other elite from the devil god sect went for the bag of holding. This was what Xiao Zun wanted. They had to get it and give it to Xiao Zun. Otherwise, even with their status, Xiao Zun could play them to death. Whoosh! The power of Yin and Yang could destroy heaven and earth. The domineering and evil demonic qi and devil power tore through space. Just as Lin Yi threw out the storage bag, Yi Zichen was stunned. He stretched out his hand and pulled Luo Bingyue, quickly rushing towards the sea at an incomparably fast speed. As long as they entered the ocean, the 3 Yin-Yang realm elites could do nothing to him. Rumble! Rumble! The 3 Yin-Yang realm elites unleashed their destructive attacks. The bag of holding still fell into the hands of the devil god sect elite. Damn it! The devil god sect elite opened the bag of holding. It was empty. Seeing this, he roared. He was a Yin-Yang realm elite, but he was tricked by manifestation realm elites that he thought were ants. He quickly moved and chased after Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue. The demonic sect elite naturally knew that he had been tricked, so he also chased after Lin Yi. However, the experts from the demonic sect and the Fey God cult did not expect Lin Yi's speed to be faster than theirs. The distance between the 2 parties was increasing. Of course, they did not expect Lin Yi to have the wings of space. Even if he did not use them now, his speed was not something that normal elites could compare to. He was extremely fast. In just 10 seconds, Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue had already reached the edge of the island. The three yin-yang realm elites behind them all had sinister smiles on their faces. They knew that Lin Yi could not escape because the island was too small. Outside the island was the vast ocean. They could only return to Heavenly Sea City by boat, not to mention that there was no boat here. Even if there was a boat, it would be too late. "Aunt, why don't you run?" The demonic sect elites snickered. At this moment, it was a game of cat and mouse. Their only opponents were the two elites from the Devil God sect. "Oomph," Lin Yi snorted coldly. With a thought, the Skyflame's sacred blade appeared in his hand. The moment the Skyflame sacred blade appeared, he slashed out. Instantly, 32 sword lights covered the sky and shot toward the three yin-yang realm elites. At the same time, Luo Bingyue's 10,000 mammoth strength was also unleashed. And ice lights. The ice lotus emitted a destructive aura, and for a moment, the entire island was covered in frost. The bone-piercing coldness made people tremble. Ice heart lotus. Space trembled, and everything fell silent. Whoosh. The three yin-yang realm experts hadn't expected the two ants to have the guts to attack. The demonic sect expert spat out a mouthful of blood. And the skinny old man's beast form also spat out blood. This was not the end. Under Luo Bingyue's control, the Skyflame's sacred lotus turned into rays of icy light. The icy light enveloped the three yin-yang realm elites. In an instant, the three yin-yang realm elites were completely frozen. The power of ice killed the three yin-yang realm elites. The island was silent. The three yin-yang realm elites were frozen. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. "That's right. Even if it's me, I might not be able to defeat you." Lin Yi scanned with his divine will. The three yin-yang realm elites were dead. He was shocked. Although he knew that Luo Bingyue had the heart of ice essence and was one realm higher than him, he did not expect Luo Bingyue's strength to be so terrifying. She used the Skyflame's sacred lotus to kill a yin-yang realm elite. Even he could not kill three yin-yang realm elites in one move. Unless he used the freezing sky aurora. The heart of ice essence is suitable for the body of ice. Luo Bingyue was delighted to hear Lin Yi's praise. The heart of ice essence had completely changed her. With her ice-cold physique, it was as if she had received the help of the ice soul heart, turning her into a terrifying monster. Moreover, she could easily unleash a portion of the ice heart sacred lotus power. "This girl is not bad. She's your fiancée, right? Take her. She'll be of great help to you in the future." Biluo's voice sounded in his mind. Her words made Lin Yi speechless. Were there cultivations? Lin Yi did not linger on this topic. He communicated with Biluo with his divine will. The demonic sect, second level of the yin-yang realm. The other two, peak first level of the yin-yang realm. Biluo answered. "That means Bingyue's strength. She's comparable to a second level of the yin-yang realm, or even a third level of the yin-yang realm." Lin Yi thought. Then he looked at the sea and shook his head. The boats that came had already been destroyed. The island was surrounded by barren land. Naturally, no one would pass by. It was impossible to find a boat. If they wanted to return to Sky Sea City, they could only fly back. If he had known this would happen, he would have prepared a boat in the ninefold space. Lin Yi could not help but think that he was still too inexperienced. He was not fully prepared for many things. "Let's go," Luo Bingyue said. She only said one word. At the same time, she activated the heavenly ice technique and pointed her finger. The terrifying power of ice landed on the sea. Instantly, a piece of ice that was a few meters large appeared in the sea. The ice was extremely solid. Even a manifestation realm elite might not be able to break it. Whoosh, whoosh, the two of them flashed and landed on the ice. Lin Yi waved his hand and slapped the air with his palm. There was a strange tremor in the air. At the same time, the ice under their feet flew out like sharp arrows. It was extremely fast, crossing thousands of meters in the blink of an eye. Half a day later, Lin Yi and Luo Bingyue returned to Sky Sea City. "I'm going to the market. I'm going to dispose of some unneeded items. Are you going?" After returning to Sky Sea City, Lin Yi asked Luo Bingyue. His ninefold space was indeed very big. He could store any number of items. However, He wanted to sell some unneeded items for gold coins or spiritual stones. When the time came, he could use spiritual stones to buy precious cultivation resources or items. The chaotic divine tree needed precious treasures. I'm going. Luo Bingwa nodded and responded. In Sky Sea City, she had no relatives. The only person she was familiar with was Lin Yi. Moreover, Lin Yi used to be her fiancé. Although Lin Yi canceled the agreement and gave her freedom, the two of them were still together. There was an indescribable joy in her heart. She realized that she didn't know when she started to like Lin Yi. The two of them walked towards the market while admiring the scenery of Sky Sea City. The market. It was one of the most prosperous places in Sky Sea City. There were all kinds of resources that martial artists needed here. It could be said that as long as you had spiritual stones and gold coins, you could buy anything you needed here. Although it was a bit exaggerated, it also showed that the market had all kinds of resources. The day of the Sky Sea Sect's disciple recruitment was approaching. Countless prodigies and elites wanted to use this time to increase their strength. Lingling, don't be stubborn. After visiting the market, come back to the Qin clan with me. In the market square, a young man and woman were strolling. The young man was confident and his face was full of arrogance. The woman was extremely beautiful. She was tall and had an otherworldly temperament, just like a fairy. She was one of the top 10 goddesses of the Sky Sea Sect, senior sister Lingling. Back to the Qin clan? Qin Wenfeng, stop dreaming. Don't follow me. You're an eyesore. Senior sister Lingling looked impatient. Qin Wenfeng was like a fly that she couldn't get rid of. However, she didn't dare to offend him. After all, Qin Wenfeng had a powerful background. Lingling, you better think it through. Don't regret it when the time comes. Qin Wenfeng's face was extremely ugly. When I get tired of you, I'll sell you to a brothel. Let's see how arrogant you can be then. Qin Wenfeng roared in his heart. If it wasn't for Murong Lingling's beauty, he wouldn't have chased her to Sky Sea City. Murong Lingling strolled around in boredom. She didn't plan to buy anything at all. She just wanted to relax or to get rid of Qin Wenfeng. At this moment, a familiar figure appeared in her line of sight. She was surprised and curious, and even a bit happy. A sly smile appeared on her beautiful face. Chapter 76. What's wrong? Seeing Murong Lingling's expression, Qin Wenfeng couldn't help but follow her gaze. In his line of sight, it was a girl as beautiful as a goddess. The girl was cold and holy, and her aura was unapproachable. She gave off an otherworldly feeling. In fact, she was even prettier than Murong Lingling. Her cold aura made her the target of all men. Lingling, you know her? Qin Wenfeng looked at the beautiful girl. He asked Murong Lingling, who was beside him. Yes, I know her. Murong Lingling nodded. She thought Qin Wenfeng was referring to the youth beside the girl. She had indeed seen the youth before, but she didn't know his name. The badge on his chest proved that he was a disciple of the Heavenly Sea Sect. She couldn't help but be surprised and curious. As she spoke, she walked towards the youth. Junior brother, Murong Lingling called out as she approached the young man and woman. Her voice was crisp and sweet, and a happy smile appeared on her beautiful face. Senior sister Lingling. Lin Yi felt a faint fragrance coming towards him. The fragrance was intoxicating. He turned his head and saw that it was an extremely beautiful woman. She was wearing a sky blue dress, and her aura was otherworldly. His mind spun quickly, and he finally remembered that he had seen this girl before. The youth was naturally Lin Yi and Luo Bingwa. The two of them came to the market, and they didn't expect to meet someone they knew. Who is this junior sister? Murong Lingling was even happier when she saw that Lin Yi still remembered her. But when her gaze landed on Luo Bingwa, a trace of jealousy rose in her heart. It was clear that the girl in front of her was even prettier than her. In fact, she was also very pretty, but her temperament was a bit lacking compared to Luo Bingwa's cold temperament. She's my friend, Luo Bingwa. Lin Yi gave a simple introduction. Lin Yi noticed that the young man beside Murong Lingling was sizing up Luo Bingwa. When he looked at Lin Yi, there was a deep sense of enmity in his eyes. Hello, I'm Murong Lingling. Murong Lingling smiled and extended her hand. Luo Binghua nodded and reached out her hand. The two shook hands gently as a polite greeting. Qin Wenfeng, who was at the side, was completely treated as heir. His face was incomparably ugly. He finally understood that Murong Lingling didn't know Luo Binghua, but knew this youth. Murong Lingling was happy to see this youth, which made Qin Wenfeng extremely unhappy. The woman he liked was neither cold nor warm to him. She even hated him. Yet, she was so affectionate toward the young man. Senior Marshal's sister, you're also strolling around the market? Lin Yi smiled as he looked at Murong Lingling. When she looked at Murong Lingling, her eyes were clear and pure, filled with admiration. Yes, relax. There was a sly smile on Murong Lingling's face. His gloomy mood had actually improved. Beauty, let's get to know each other. I'm Qin Wenfeng. Qin Wenfeng introduced himself politely as he looked at Luo Binghua. He felt a sense of satisfaction in his heart. It meant that since you have feelings for this youth, I'll get close to this goddess who's prettier than you. It would be great if he could woo this cold goddess. As for Murong Lingling, it was fine if he gave up on her. There's no need. Luo Binghua's cold voice sounded. If it wasn't for politeness, she wouldn't even bother with Qin Wenfeng. Junior brother, you want to buy resources? Or sell resources? Murong Lingling had a sly smile on her face as she took a step forward. Her slender jade-like hands naturally wrapped around Linya's arm. Her movements were extremely natural, as if she had practiced with Linya before. Linya was stunned by this scene. Luo Binghua was stunned. Qin Wenfeng was stunned. He didn't expect Murong Lingling to do this. What kind of game was this? Linya was speechless and even a little dumbfounded. Lingling, don't go overboard. Qin Wenfeng's expression was extremely ugly. In the beginning, he was treated like heir by the three of them. Later on, he took the initiative to greet Luo Binghua, but was ignored by the latter. And now, Murong Lingling, the woman he liked, was holding the arm of this young man in front of him. This was completely an action that only couples would do. Qin Wenfeng, go back to the Qin family. This is the Heavenly Sea realm, the Heavenly Sea sect. Murong Lingling's expression froze as she spoke seriously. Qin Wenfeng was like a fly that annoyed her. When he saw Luo Binghua, he immediately tried to curry favor with her. This made her feel even more disgusted. If Qin Wenfeng wasn't a member of the Qin family, she wouldn't be so polite to him. Let's go. Lin Yi reacted and knew that he was the scapegoat. This beautiful senior sister, Lingling in front of him, was definitely using him to reject Qin Wenfeng. However, Qin Wenfeng would definitely hate him. Of course, he didn't care. He glanced at Murong Lingling, then looked at Luo Binghua. His eyes were filled with helplessness. What made Qin Wenfeng even angrier was that Luo Binghua and Murong Lingling replied to Lin Yi at the same time. He never would have thought that the woman he liked, who was so prideful and holy in front of him, would become so obedient in front of another person. This anger was indescribable. Furthermore, this youth that didn't seem to be outstanding had two gorgeous women in his heart. Two fresh flowers stuck in a pile of cow dung. Stop. Kid, you're feeling good, aren't you? I advise you to get out of my sight. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. There are some people that you can't afford to offend. Don't be a toad that wants to eat swan meat. Qin Wenfeng was almost roaring. He no longer cared about being elegant in front of his goddess. His voice attracted countless people's attention. At this moment, more and more people came over to watch the show. Plus, just Luo Binghua and Murong Lingling's beauty was enough to attract people's attention no matter where they went. Now that the two goddesses were together, they naturally became the focus of countless people. In a moment, the four of them were surrounded by hundreds and thousands of people. Everyone's eyes were filled with envy and jealousy. One had to know that Lin Yi had two goddesses by his side. This kid is so lucky. Lucky? He's courting death. He doesn't have the strength nor the background. He will only bring trouble. Just the situation in front of him is enough to make him suffer. He might even be crippled. I really don't know why the two goddesses are with him. Obviously, he's using them as a shield. The sound of discussion was endless. No one looked directly at Lin Yi. Even if Lin Yi was a disciple of the Heavenly Sea sect, the badge on Lin Yi's chest showed that he was an ordinary outer sect disciple. Furthermore, in Heavenly Sea City, Wanxiang realm cultivators were everywhere. They weren't worth much. A mere Wanxiang realm cultivator with two goddesses by his side was definitely hated. That Wenfeng something? I'm feeling really good. You must be feeling really bad, right? But what does that have to do with me? Lin Yi turned around and glanced at Qin Wenfeng, intentionally or otherwise. He couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile on his face. He opened his mouth and spoke neither quickly nor slowly. His entire person was calm and collected. However, the words that came out of his mouth shocked everyone. They didn't expect Lin Yi to be so arrogant. Chapter 77. Arrogant, that's right, arrogant and conceited. They were all ordinary outer sect disciples of the Tianhai sect who looked no more than 16 years old. How could he be so arrogant in front of a peak Wanxiang realm expert? However, Lin Yi was arrogant. He was just too conceited. When the countless people present looked at Lin Yi, their eyes were filled with disdain and disdain. They all thought that Lin Yi was being arrogant because he wanted to leave a good impression on the two goddesses. However, they didn't know that Lin Yi didn't even take Qin Wenfeng seriously. Not to mention the Wanxiang realm, he wouldn't even take an ordinary Yin Yang realm expert seriously. You're courting death. You're very powerful. You've successfully angered me. Qin Wenfeng's expression was extremely ugly. He was humiliated by a young man in front of so many people. This was a great humiliation. As he spoke, he activated his powerful heaven-level cultivation technique. Instantly, the overbearing Wanxiang realm strength distorted the space. As a genius, although he was a little stupid, he was pretty strong and was almost invincible in the Wanxiang realm. Lin Yi felt that Qin Wenfeng was at the peak of the Wanxiang realm and was comparable to a first-level Yin-Yang realm expert. Hiss, the air was distorted. Qin Wenfeng's fist carried a destructive aura as it smashed towards Lin Yi. He didn't use a weapon because, in his opinion, using a weapon against a young man was an insult to the weapon. This fist was enough to destroy this damned young man in front of him. There was no lack of experts present. Seeing the power of Qin Wenfeng's fist, they were all shocked. They knew that they couldn't withstand it. For a moment, they looked at Lin Yi as if they were looking at a dead man. Many girls even covered their eyes, not wanting to see the bloody and violent scene. Who do you think you are? I really don't know who gave you the confidence. Lin Yi looked at the incoming destructive aura and said indifferently. However, he didn't move at all. He just watched the overbearing aura of the fist come crashing towards him. However, when the aura of the fist was 1 meter away from him, he moved. He raised his hand and also threw a punch. This punch didn't seem very powerful. In fact, he didn't even seem to be channeling his energy. In this situation, everyone thought that Lin Yi was courting death. Boom! In an instant, the two auras of the fist collided. In the space, there was a strong sonic boom, and the wind was raging. The powerful aura sent the onlookers within 100 meters flying. Many of them were affected and spat out a mouthful of blood. Qin Wenfeng, then Qin Wenfeng's voice. Qin Wenfeng, who had been the first to attack, was sent flying by the terrifying power. He finally fell to the ground, and his arm was directly shattered by the powerful attack. Blood was dripping, and he looked very terrifying. Qin Wenfeng's face was pale and filled with pain. Lin Yi, on the other hand, stood in place without moving. After a brief silence, everyone couldn't help but sigh. Their faces were filled with shock. When they looked at Lin Yi, it was as if they had seen a monster. They didn't expect this seemingly ordinary youth to be so powerful. He defeated a peak 9th level Wanxiang realm expert with a casual punch. Moreover, his cultivation was only at the 5th level of the Wanxiang realm. How terrifying was this punch to cripple the arm of a peak 9th level Wanxiang realm expert? Apart from Luo Bingyue, the others present were all shocked. As for the others, they were all shocked. Their mouths were so wide open that one could stuff a fist into them. You'll regret this. I want you to die. Qin Wenfeng's arm was crippled. His combat strength was almost zero. He stood up painfully. He hated Lin Yi to the bone. If a vicious gaze could kill, Lin Yi would have been killed by him countless times. He looked at Lin Yi and gnashed his teeth. At the same time, a jade talisman appeared in Qin Wenfeng's other hand. He activated the jade talisman with his true essence. The jade talisman exploded with a destructive aura. Level 6 talisman, that's right. It was a level 6 talisman. A level 6 talisman that could kill a yin-yang realm expert. That overbearing and destructive aura shocked the experts who were watching. Their faces changed, and they did not dare to hesitate. In a flash, they left the forest far away. He even had a level 6 talisman. This meant that Qin Wenfeng's background wasn't simple. Even a yin-yang realm expert could be killed by a level 6 talisman, let alone Lin Yi. In an instant, the jade talisman turned into a giant demon beast. The demon beast roared and bit at Lin Yi with destructive power. It was as if it wanted to devour Lin Yi. Its ferocious aura shook the sky and made people tremble. Heavenly Sea City, Heavenly Sea Sect. I don't kill ants. However, the punishment is necessary. To be honest, I don't even want to attack, because you don't have the right to make me attack. The demon beast was 100 meters tall. Its ferocious aura was unparalleled and extremely powerful. Looking at the demon beast that the jade talisman had turned into, Lin Yi was moved. A level 6 talisman was indeed not bad. If it were any other manifestation realm expert, they would definitely die. However, against Lin Yi, this level 6 talisman was useless. As he spoke, he activated the Divine Dragon 9 transformations and a powerful force erupted. At the same time, he executed the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal. A huge seal appeared in the air and shot towards the demonic beast. This seal was the second level of the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal. Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal, Sovereign Seal. Its power was more than 1,000 times stronger than the Sovereign Seal. With a single strike, even a small mountain would be destroyed by the Sovereign Seal. In an instant, it was just an instant, the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal struck the demon beast. Cracks appeared on the demon beast formed by the level 6 talisman. The speed of the cracks was extremely fast. In just an instant, the demon beast's body turned into pieces and disappeared into the air. It was shattered into pieces by Lin Yi's seal. Pucci, the power of the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal increased. Qin Wenfeng, who was not far away, was drowned by the seal. The square of the market trembled. Countless people's blood surged, and they almost spat out blood. Their faces were pale. Soon, the seal of the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal disappeared. The space fell silent. Countless experts' eyes were filled with shock. Their faces were lifeless. On the ground, Qin Wenfeng's clothes were almost completely shredded. He looked extremely miserable, even worse than a beggar on the side of the road. There was no longer a trace of a martial artist's aura on his body. Qin Wenfeng's dantian had been shattered. He could no longer cultivate and could only be an ordinary person. I didn't expect a 5th-level all-manifestation realm to defeat a 9th-level all-manifestation realm cultivator. Is this still a 5th-level all-manifestation realm cultivator? I suspect that my 5th-level all-manifestation realm cultivation is fake. He was able to defeat someone 4 levels above him in one strike. It seems like he didn't really make a move. I'm really curious. How powerful is his most terrifying strike? When did such a powerful person appear in the Outer Sect? Even the top 10 Outer Sect disciples are only SOSO. All the experts present were shocked. Their eyeballs were about to fly out. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. For a moment, many 5th-level all-manifestation realm geniuses suspected that their cultivation was fake. Junior brother, you're too powerful. Murong Lingling looked at Lin Yi as if she had discovered a new continent. Apart from shock, there was also a sly smile on her beautiful face. As for Qin Wenfeng, she really didn't care about him. The Qin family was powerful, but the Murong family wasn't afraid of them. Moreover, the Qin family wasn't in the Sky Sea realm. Their hands couldn't reach the Sky Sea City. Naturally, she wasn't worried about Lin Yi. Chapter 78. You're too kind, senior sister. Lin Yi smiled and was about to leave with Luo Bingwe. At that moment, a terrifying aura locked onto him. That aura was unparalleled, and it was definitely the most powerful being he had ever encountered. Needless to say, the person who locked onto him was a powerful yin-yang realm cultivator, and a very powerful one at that. Boom! Unparalleled pressure instantly descended. Pucci! Instantly, the pressure descended on Lin Yi and the others. With Lin Yi as the center, all the experts within a few hundred meters spat out a mouthful of blood. Their faces were pale and powerless, and they were about to kneel down. They looked extremely miserable. He hadn't even arrived yet, but his aura and pressure had already crushed everything in its path. This was the terrifying power of a super yin-yang realm cultivator. Not all yin-yang realm cultivators could do this. Everyone was crushed, but Lin Yi was an exception. Luo Bingwe, Lin Yi. The two of them ignored the domineering and destructive pressure. Even Murong Lingling, who was beside them, was unaffected by the pressure with Lin Yi's aura. A cry of surprise sounded in the air. He didn't expect Lin Yi to be able to resist his pressure. Even Luo Bingwe could resist his pressure. The commotion on the square attracted the attention of even more experts. Instantly, countless experts looked over. Third uncle, I want him dead. Capture Lingling and that woman alive. Qin Wenfeng, who was lying on the ground, felt a familiar aura and became excited as he shouted loudly. At this moment, with his third uncle here, he had a backer. The hatred in his heart surged out. He wanted to burn Lin Yi to ashes and capture Murong Lingling and Luo Bingwe alive. You're a disgrace to the Qin family. But even if you don't live up to expectations, you're still a member of the Qin family. The Qin family isn't something an ant can provoke. Qin Xiaodian, the second-generation expert of the Qin clan. He was considered an outstanding talent among the younger generation. He was not even 40 years old this year, and his cultivation base was at the peak of the 4th level of the yin-yang realm. He could be said to be invincible among his peers. Back then, he was also a super genius. As he spoke, Qin Xiaoyan's figure appeared in Lin Yi's sight. A young man walked towards him step by step, exuding a destructive aura. His aura was so powerful that it sent the surrounding experts flying. When one's cultivation reached a certain level, one could basically retain one's youthful looks. Oftentimes, there were many experts who had lived for 70 or 80 years, or even 100 or 200 years old. Although they still looked like youths, their true age could not be concealed. Junior brother, be careful. This is the expert of the second generation of the Qin clan. When he was young, he was also a super genius. His strength surpassed his cultivation level. Murong Lingling's expression became serious when she saw Qin Xiaotian. She believed that Qin Xiaotian wouldn't dare to touch her, but it would be disadvantageous for Lin Yi. However, this was the Heavenly Sea sect of the Heavenly Sea City. The experts of the Heavenly Sea sect would definitely know about Qin Xiaoyan's appearance. She moved her face close to Lin Yi's ear and whispered. Her breath was like orchids, and Lin Yi couldn't help but feel restless. Lingling, for your father's sake, come back to the Qin clan with me. Qin Xiaoyan's cold gaze swept across Lin Yi and the other two. He said to Murong Lingling. He really didn't dare to do anything to Murong Lingling. His tone was firm, and no one could disobey him. It was as if he was giving an order. Uncle Qin, for my father's sake, I'll call you Uncle Qin. But Uncle Qin, you have to understand that this is Heavenly Sea City. I won't go to the Qin clan. The sly smile on Murong Lingling's beautiful face disappeared, and what replaced it was coldness. She didn't give Qin Xiaotian any face. Her words made it clear that she would only call him Uncle Qin for her father's sake. Her tone was completely confrontational. As she spoke, she subconsciously held Lin Yi's arm tighter. Intentionally or unintentionally, she took a step forward and placed Lin Yi behind her. In her eyes, no matter how monstrous Lin Yi was, he couldn't be Qin Xiaoyan's match. She didn't believe that Qin Xiaotian would dare to attack her. This action made Lin Yi's heart involuntarily warm. In this world, other than Mr., he didn't have any relatives. It was true. He didn't have any relatives. No one cared about him. Junior, kill yourself. I can give you an intact corpse. Qin Xiaoyan's expression was ugly. He was a yin-yang realm expert, but he was humiliated by a little girl. What was even more hateful was that he couldn't attack this little girl. His gaze was like a sharp sword as he looked at Lin Yi. His voice was extremely cold. As he spoke, he walked towards Lin Yi step by step. With every step he took, his aura grew stronger. The terrifying aura crushed Lin Yi. He wanted to use his aura and pressure to defeat Lin Yi. This was the power and dominance of a yin-yang realm expert against a wanxiang realm expert. Someone from outside the Sky Sea realm came to cause trouble in Sky Sea City. Do you really think that there's no one in Sky Sea City? In the market, the three super experts naturally saw the scene in the square. Actually, in Sky Sea City, as long as one emitted a yin-yang realm aura, they couldn't hide from Sky Sea City. Everyone's actions in Sky Sea City couldn't escape Sky Sea Sect surveillance. Wait, let's see how long this little guy can last. One of the elders shook his head and said, Elder Yun, do you think he can last? A 5th-level Wanxiang realm expert against a 4th-level yin-yang realm expert. He'll be crushed. The one who spoke was a woman. Although she was young, she was an elder of Sky Sea Sect. Don't let Sky Sea Sect leave any evidence for outsiders. The elder said indifferently. Someone from outside the Sky Sea realm came to cause trouble in Sky Sea City. Sky Sea Sect naturally had to interfere, not to mention that this youth was a disciple of Sky Sea Sect. However, Sky Sea Sect couldn't find an excuse for others unless it was an outsider who attacked first. In that case, Sky Sea Sect could directly kill the outsider. Who told you to be arrogant? You're finished now. He really doesn't know what's good for him. A Wanxiang realm expert against a yin-yang realm expert. He's courting death. What a pity. If he kept a low profile, he wouldn't have died. However, he really has some skills. He can directly face the pressure and aura of a yin-yang realm expert. I just don't know if he can block one attack from a yin-yang realm expert. In the square, countless experts discussed. They couldn't help but gloat. A Wanxiang realm expert against a powerful yin-yang realm expert was simply courting death. The experts present had seen yin-yang realm experts before, but none of them were as powerful as this yin-yang realm expert. One could only imagine how terrifying this yin-yang realm expert was. They could only admit that they were unlucky to encounter such a terrifying person. Scram! Unexpectedly, Lin Yi didn't kill himself. Instead, he said scram. He was still as arrogant and domineering as before. For a moment, countless people opened their mouths so wide that their fists could be stuffed in. Their eyeballs were about to fly out. They couldn't believe what they had heard. Lin Yi looked indifferently at Qin Xiaoyan. He activated the Luo Water Sutra. A powerful defense was activated. His battle-intent sword. It was his first time encountering such a powerful yin-yang realm expert, so he naturally wanted to fight. It was also a good opportunity to test his strength and understand the methods of a yin-yang realm expert. A trace of anger appeared on Murong Lingling's beautiful face. She didn't expect Lin Yi to be so arrogant. He was still so arrogant in front of Qin Xiaoyan. If he had restrained himself a little, she might have been able to protect him once. At least this time, Qin Xiaoyan wouldn't dare to kill Lin Yi. But now, even she couldn't protect him. For a moment, disappointment rose in her heart. Die. I'll teach you the most basic etiquette of a martial artist. Qin Xiaoyan was so angry that he laughed loudly. He was indeed infuriated by Lin Yi. What kind of person was he? Yet, he was provoked and humiliated by a youth in the Sky Sea realm. He circulated his true essence, and the power of yin and yang erupted. He punched at Lin Yi. Space distorted and shattered. The destructive fist appeared in front of Lin Yi with flames. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.